Buffalo Fanatics.
Hey. Hey.
I'm Brown.
Wow.
I'm a Buffalo fanatic.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again. It's your boy Bot. It's your boy Rico. It's the Rico and Bot post-game show. How are we feeling today? Z-Bot, are you feeling good?
We're feeling way better than I thought we might have been feeling around the halftime mark, around when that kick went back. Rico, at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills are 1-0. That's all you wanted going into the day, and that's exactly what we got. What a hell of a way to kick off the season. A crazy game in Orchard Park, but Rico, 1-0 nonetheless. The Bills had to have this one with as tough of a schedule as they have coming out. In the second half, they showed that this team, offensively and defensively, they can get it done on a weekly basis. A lot to talk about from the first slate of 2024 football here in week one.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Where was Marvin Harrison Jr.? Where was he?
I believe you got a graphic or a nickname that you like to do when it comes to guys like that, and that's milk carton.
Oh, the milk carton alert. We're going to talk about the milk carton alert, but that's a little too soon for that. We already have candidates. But like my man Z-Bot said, listen, a little too close for comfort at the beginning, but we found our footing. That's what it was. Guys, we know. Listen, I was getting texts left, right, center. Oh, how about your Bills now? Look at you guys getting 17-3. Boy, relax, everyone. Remember who we have in 17. Let him get cooking and let him get going. And that's exactly what happened in the second half. Him and Joe Brady sat next to each other and said, all right, what do we got to do? And guess what? They put things together, and here we are with a dub week one without Gabe Davis, without Stephon Diggs, without Mitch Morse, without Matt Milano, without Trey White, without Jordan Poyer, without Micah Hyde. Golly, baby, it feels good to get a dub, to know that we can still play good football without all these guys. And I see comments like this, right? I got to go back. The defense got cooked. I got to break it to you. Kyler Murray, 162 yards passing. The defense got cooked. Guys, stop thinking with your damn feelings and look at the... Bro, there was a few broken plays. It was a little rusty, but 162 yards got cooked. He got cooked. One TD pass, got cooked. Guys, knock it off already. Got sacked 4 times, but we got cooked by the defense. Hey, they ran for 124 yards. Not bad. Not horrible. Kyler Murray was 57 yards. You know he's gonna get his. James Conner, 16 rushes for 50 yards, but we got cooked. Stop it. Listen, don't let me get off, because my energy on post games is different. I'm saying, so calm me down a little bit. I'm just saying, we got cooked. Yo, stop with that stupid ass narrative, Brian Lucho. With all due respect.
So where Brian's accurate, the first half, the Buffalo defense got cooked. The second half, the Buffalo Bills go 24-3. 24 offensive points to 3 points for the Arizona Cardinals in the second half. What it felt like in the first half was that the Bills did not have their feet underneath of them offensively against a guy in Kyler Murray who did a terrific job, it felt like, early on, extending plays, bouncing around the pocket, getting it to wide open guys. In that first half, it felt like any receiver on the Arizona Cardinals was able to get wide open with ease. It felt like they were able to do whatever they wanted. But then when the second half started, the Buffalo Bills defense, Bobby Babbage, whatever they were able to cook up at halftime, it wound up being executed to perfection. Greg Rousseau, absolute monster of a second half. Von Miller in the sack column with a huge sack in the second half. This Buffalo Bills defense stepped up in a massive way in the second half, including on that final drive where they stifled the Arizona Cardinals and their ability to go down and potentially win that game like they did the last time that these two teams played each other. But the Bills offense, shooting themselves in the foot left and right in that first half. They come out in the second half, 4 touchdowns for Josh Allen. An incredible day on the ground, through the air. It felt like he took what was coming to him. Not anybody, for the most part, through the air had a monstrous day, but we got stuff out of guys that you're hoping to see on a consistent basis. What do you know it? Keon Coleman leads the way as far as receivers are concerned with 51 yards on only 4 receptions, one of the biggest receptions of the day on that jump ball. It was that moment, Rico, that you realize the Buffalo Bills draft Keon Coleman for plays like that, going down the sideline, a go up and get it type play. Keon Coleman goes up and gets it. The only thing offensively that I found very shocking was that Dalton Kincaid had 1 catch, and it was late in the game. Not only did he have 1 catch, they were barely targeting him all game. And you add to the fact that Dawson Knox only had 1 catch as well. So here's the weird thing about this one, Rico. 10 points at half for this Buffalo Bills offense. You look at the stat sheet overall, right? Dawson Knox, 1 catch. Dalton Kincaid, 1 catch. Curtis Samuel, 2 for 15. You look up and down, this Buffalo Bills team in the stat department, as far as the air game is concerned, from the wide receiver perspective or the pass catching perspective, nothing crazy, but it wound up resulting in 34 points. And that's a lot to do with the fact that JA-17 once again put that game on his back and got it done for Buffalo.
JA-17 absolutely had to put that thing on his back. And the game plan was very evident at the beginning of the game. And I think that's a lot of what we touched on in the pregame show was the Bills are going to establish the run. They're going to run the football, and that they did. We ran more than we passed today. Yep. At one point, Josh only had 15 attempts. He was 13 for 15 at one point. So the motive for this game was to run the football. Problem is a turnover by Josh and a quick score by the Cardinals had our backs against the wall, where we had to kind of abandon a little bit of this I guess the game plan to run the football, especially with all the wind that was howling back and forth. We had no choice but to unleash Josh. I felt like we got week 12 to week 13 type Josh performance in week 1. He had no choice. He had to will his team to victory by putting the ball on the ground and obviously putting the ball in the air. And the results are there. 34 points, 4 touchdowns for Josh. A little banged up, but exactly what we needed. But going back to your point about Keon Coleman, and everybody's got their roles. There's going to be moments where someone's got to eat. And the 2 guys that stood out to me today, Khalil Shakir, with his never say die attitude, and this is exactly what this offense needs, a spark. Because that right there, folks, that touchdown pass from Josh Allen to Khalil Shakir is exactly the spark that we needed to get ourselves back into this game. And then Keon Coleman with the 28-yard pass reception down the sideline. Man, it gets you excited for what this team can bring us this offseason. Somebody in the chat, actually our guy Cody Benz, was like, listen, some might want to look at this as this was our preseason performance to get the balls rolling. And I somewhat agree with that. Let's be real. First half was a starter's preseason, right? This is the first time you get to see these guys against live bullets right off the bat, and let's go. And we didn't get a chance to have that in the second preseason game, nor did we get that in the third. So this was our chance to get these guys together, live bullets going at once. And I totally agree with this, man. Week 1 in the books, a dub goes to the Bills, but there are some things that are concerning. I don't know if I want to get here just yet, but the amount of penalties that stalled us.
Oh yeah,
was a bit. I don't know if you saw this and when your dad and you were watching. Weren't you kind of like, oh, another penalty again?
Oh, big time.
Stifling ourselves. How did you feel about that?
Well, I mean, that was the huge takeaway, in my opinion, for the reason the Bills were in the hole that they were in the first half. You have Josh Allen with a beautiful rushing touchdown, Osiris Torrance with a brutal face mask right on the goal line. That stifles that. Then you have that horrendous flag that they threw on the Bills, the late hit on Kyler Murray on the slide. Give me a break. One of the worst calls I've ever seen. Enrico, they weren't calling it both ways. It happened like twice to Allen later on in the game. Never threw it. Deion Dawkins, I think he had 6 total flags all year last year. He had 2 today, including a false start. It felt like the majority of the errors were coming on the Buffalo Bills offensive line side of things. That, to me, is where things looked the sloppiest at times. Back to Cody's point, maybe you do chalk some of that up to the fact that this unit was not out there in the preseason really at all. And then you do get to, have the luxury, I suppose, of going out there in the first half, working through that, and then somehow finding a way to overcome it in the second half. It did feel like they got off to a really slow start on both sides of the ball in terms of having their shit together, for lack of a better term. Offensively, it seemed like it was the flags. Defensively, it felt like they were just not ready to contain Kyler Murray. They were not ready to, they were really in coverage. It felt like they weren't ready for much of anything. But then all of a sudden in the second half, everything seemed to split on a dime. And what I found crazy, I think you and I had a read on this game almost to a T. I mean, we thought this game was going to be right within the spread. What do you know? They cover it, a 6-point victory, just like I had predicted. Yep. As far as the hot takes, right? Josh Allen, 23 attempts, 0 interceptions. I know we had the fumble, but the Bills got that one right back from Greg Rousseau, getting one on Kyler Murray. So it wound up being a ratio, Rico, of nearly 60-40 in terms of running the ball to throwing the ball. And they wound up going exactly the way you would want it to in that department. James Cook, damn near 20 carries. Wasn't anything crazy, but it felt like at times you could totally see, how that's going to be the bell cow for the Bills this year. And then, like I predicted all offseason, and I knew this was going to happen, and we're praying that the hand injury for Josh Allen is not going to be something that we're going to have to continue to bring up, especially on a short week. But right out of the gates, Rico, 9 carries for Josh Allen, 39 yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen's legs ultimately, Rico, were the difference in this ball game. And we had talked about it throughout the offseason, where we know that Josh Allen had said, I don't love running the ball, but we had both said, listen, a lot of times in life, you have to do things you don't love. And Josh Allen has to run the ball for this Bills team to be successful. And Joe Brady knows it. And he had damn near double-digit carries, 2 touchdowns. And I think if Josh Allen doesn't scramble the way he does today, run the ball the way he does today, the Bills don't get out of there with a victory the way they did today.
What I really do appreciate about Joe Brady is Joe Brady understands what it takes to get over the hump when your team is in the lull. And that get it over the hump part is finding your guy 17 to say, okay, clearly things aren't working. So Josh, get in there and do what you do to get us back into this game, get us back into getting our mojo back. And that's exactly what had to happen. That first unfortunate turnover, that fumble, kind of took the sail, right? The offense was rolling. If you really look about it, think about it, this offense nearly was not, they didn't have an answer for us. They did not have an answer for us. Although, if you look at what we did in the red zone, we were 4 for 6 in the red zone. When we got to the red zone, we did what we needed to do. And that's converting 4 out of 6. The only thing that kind of bugged me a little bit was that we weren't as efficient on third down, on our third down conversions. We went 3 for 9 on third down. So we're definitely we were one of the better teams on third down efficiency last year, if not top. I think we were top 2, top 3. And this performance today did not help whatsoever. The one thing I do like to do is look at the box score. And not the box score doesn't always tell you a story, but the box score kind of gives you an idea of how this game started and how it ended. So let's start with Kyler Murray. We started with Kyler Murray today, saying, okay, we've got to be disciplined and watching what he does with his legs. He's going to want to air the ball out. He's going to want to have things to prove this year. And guess what? 21 for 31, 162 yards, 5.2 yards a pop, and a touchdown. Stacked 4 times for 16 yards with a rating of 91.1. So let's talk about Kyler Murray a little bit. Did he seem like he's back? Did he seem like he's himself? Or is there still some kinks that they need to work out based on what you saw today?
It felt in the first half like he was firmly back. And to be honest with you, Rico, when you look at these stats, the fact that he finished with 162 is crazy to me, because I feel like in the first half, did it not feel like everything was just easy for them? A dink down to James Conner for 20 yards. Over the middle, it just seemed wide open. But you're looking at this, Rico. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., touted to be the next whatever, fill in the blank, 1 catch for 4 yards. He had a brutal drop early in the game. The one thing you have to give Kyler Murray credit for, and he did have 5 carries for 57 yards, so that's over 10 yards a clip. He did an incredible job today, I felt, of extending the pocket. Those 4 sacks, Rico, if that's any other quarterback back there besides Lamar, Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, I mean, that sack total might have been double, it felt like. He extended the play, I thought, tremendously. It just felt like Arizona in the second half, and I don't know how you felt about it, Did it not feel like they were going away from the things that were working in the first half? They were not utilizing the dink and dunks that seemed to be getting them down the field with ease. The play calling seemed very questionable to me. That last drive, running the ball on second down, not utilizing the timeouts. It felt like early on, Rico, under Kyler Murray, this Arizona Cardinals team was going to be able to dictate the pace of the game, and the Bills completely flipped that on a dime in the second half. So to answer your question, I thought coming off the injury, Kyler Murray being back, I thought he did a lot of good things, especially being able to extend the play. I just thought that was the biggest threat all day long, not being able to contain him the way you would probably be able to contain the majority of other quarterbacks in the league. But to hold him to 162 yards, Rico, to hold Marvin Harrison Jr. to the point where you didn't hear his name at all, other than the announcers talking about the fact that he was a non-factor. And then the guy that you were most worried about all day, right, was James Conner. And they really tried to get him involved. He had a couple of early sparks, Rico, but you're going to take 16 carries for 50 yards all day. I thought the Bills on defense early on, I thought we were going to be in for a long day, Rico. That second half has me feeling way more confident, especially when you factor in that Miami really struggled today against Jacksonville. So if the Bills are going to be able to take what they did in the second half, holding the Cardinals to 3 points, you have to feel confident about their ability to keep that rolling, because it looked like they were going to be in for a long day, and they completely flipped the script. So hats off to the Bills D. Hats off to Greg Rousseau, Von Miller. That front four, we knew that was going to be the pride and joy of this Bills D this year, and they stepped up to the call in the second half in a major way.
Absolutely going to touch on the defense for sure. And to kind of cap off what you said about Kyler Murray, it did look like things were just butter, through a hot knife through butter. It just felt like, man, this might be a long day for the Bills. If we don't get our act together, this could really turn very sour, and unless the Bills make a stop. And that's exactly what we did. But Kyler Murray had his opportunities. The amount of times that I saw Marvin Harrison Jr. with his hand up way wide open, and Kyler Murray was just blown off his mark or can't see at 5'8" or whatever the hell size he is. Well, you have guys like Greg Rousseau barreling down on you. You can't see anything. How many times did that ball get batted down today? 3 or 4
Especially
times?
late in huge moments, Rico, those last drives. But I'm glad you brought that play up, because it's easy to say Kyler Murray had Marvin Harrison Jr. wide open. Go back and watch the play. He's running for his life. You can't throw it to a wide open guy when you're running around back there like a chicken with your head cut off. That was all credit to the Bills front four. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. was wide open, but I mean, good luck getting it down there. That was credit to the Bills D. So I'm glad we're in agreement on that, because it's exactly how it looked. This Bills defense was able to somehow go from the whole game being dictated by Kyler Murray to them dictating exactly where Kyler Murray was going to go in the whole second half.
I totally agree. So we put Kyler Murray in check, and I got to give kudos to Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott for putting a great game plan together, and halftime adjustments. The halftime adjustments really made a difference. We dialed it up. I was actually surprised. Where a late drives where we really need to make a stop, and here comes Bobby Babbage with back-to-back blitzes down the middle, almost eight engage all the way through, and Kyler Murray had no choice but to toss it up. He thought he was going to have another Kyler Murray moment or a Hail Murray moment, but not this time. So kudos to the defense for shutting down Kyler Murray, although this would have been a great day for Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. to come in there and say, you know what? The Bills ain't ish, and we're here to stay. But you know what? You got another week to prove that. The Bills take the win today. So kudos to the defense. Kyler Murray is going to have to shine another day, but not today, with 21 for 31, 162 yards and a touchdown, but sacked 4 times for 16 yards. That was a big one today. That run game in Arizona, Kyler Murray, 5 for 57. He had a 29-yard scamper, and that was a nice one. You can't go wrong with it. He just out of the grasp of Dorian Williams, and then he took it down sideline for another 10, 15 yards. I mean, I hate to say take away that play, but for the most part, if Kyler Murray is not Kyler Murray, we have this team under 100 yards rushing. So kudos to this defense on trying to corral the run game. Connor, 16 for 50, 3.1 yards a carry. Not a factor when you look at the overall factor of this game. Trey Benson was not a factor as well. So at the end of the day, the Bills did what they were supposed to do and stop the run. You got to win in the trenches. And the trenches, we won. Von Miller was a menace. Daquan Jones was a menace. Ed Oliver was getting mugged all day, double teamed, and Greg Rousseau was unleashed. Good on them. So the receiving game, Here's where you thought, okay, big things are going to come from Marvin Harrison Jr. 1 reception for 4 yards.
Crazy.
Next guy out, Michael Wilson, one for he had that touchdown. So be it. This is the NFL. You're going to have to score at one point or another, right? Trey McBride which was a young, sensational young player last year, 5 for 30, shut down, right? James Conner had that 1 reception for 22 yards on that screen. But other than that, not a thing. Their leading receiver was Greg Dortch, who's their receiver number 3. So for the most part, when someone was saying the Bills defense got cooked, nah. Listen, we bent, but did not break. And we bent in the first half, and then we strengthened ourselves in the second half. So big kudos to them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I always like to kind of go through this. Kaiser White had 11 tackles. He was a star for their team last year. Buda Baker was solid, but Buda Baker sure ate dirt when he got leapt over by Josh Allen in the end zone. That was actually wonderful to see. Josh Allen, Air Allen 4. Merch could be on the way. I'm just saying, so keep an eye out for that. But for the most part, this Cardinals defense was okay. Nothing great. They don't got big time stars on that team. They've got a lot of ways to go. But at the end of the day, the Bills were just a little too much when it comes down to it. But what say you when you look at the overall performance by the Cardinals before we get all Bills? Cardinals, anything stand out to you, especially on that special teams? I don't know where that came from, but anything stand out to you on that?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this game would feel entirely different if it weren't for the special teams. I mean, that touchdown at the end there, boy, oh boy, you want to talk about one area of this team that really needs to get their act together before Thursday night. It's the special teams department. I mean, Tyler Bass, hey, kudos to him. Couple of moments where, with the wind whipping Rico, you can't take for granted a 39-yard field goal the way we've been talking about Tyler Bass in terms of how we felt this year could potentially go. Nails it right down the middle. But, man, the kickoffs, kicking that out of bounds, giving them the ball at the 40-yard line at the end there. Of course, the kick return. I feel like the best solution here, Rico, and we saw this on display today, same for the Cardinals because the Bills ran one back to the Cardinals, 40-yard line at one point. Kick the ball out of the back of the end zone. I think you're giving yourself way too much. You're risking way too much for very little reward, keeping that in the landing zone there. So that, of course, is the one area I look at in this game that needs to be cleaned up, because if it weren't for that, I mean, the Bills get out of here with a double-digit victory, and the game was over early on in the fourth quarter. Overall, though, defensively, now I'm curious. I'll have to go back and really look at it in terms of whether or not this was inflicted by the Cardinals defense or it was more so the Bills going this direction. But it did feel like the Cardinals did a really good job of getting pressure on Josh Allen and taking away anything down the field. I mean, Rico, they really did not go down the field at all. And I think that results in, the stat line you see for Dalton Kincaid, for Dawson Knox. It's amazing that Josh Allen on only 23 attempts, Rico, had 232 yards. It did not feel like he had 232 yards in that game, especially on this minimal amount of attempts that he had. It did feel like there was nothing downfield, and that contributed to the amount of rushing attempts that Josh Allen wound up having. So I thought going into this, the Achilles heel was going to be the defense for the Cardinals. I would say they played a bit better than I anticipated, Rico. But my biggest takeaway in general here is the fact that you go into half with 10 points. Nothing looks good offensively for the most part. Especially, I mean, I shouldn't say that. They were moving the ball, but not capitalizing on it. And in the second half, for them to be able to do what they did, especially when you're looking across the board here, it's funny. We had kept saying this game was going to be our first true, example of what we can expect from these Bills this year. And I had said, I can't help but think, just based on my gut, that it's going to be a lot of what we saw a season ago under Joe Brady. And Rico, I mean, for the most part, you had 9 different guys catch a ball. So that's why when you look at the receiving stats, nothing's popping out except for, of course, Keon Coleman leading the way in his first ever game. But 9 different pass catchers. They ran the ball over 30 times. They only threw it 23 times. And that resulted in a 24-point second half. That resulted in a team offensively that put them in a position to win this game by 2 touchdowns. You had Khalil Shakir making plays. You had Keon Coleman making plays. It felt like what we expect. I mean, Mac Hollins, Rico, right? 2 of the biggest plays of the game, especially the touchdown. It was a beautifully read ball from Josh Allen. He brings it in. So I think, Rico, going into this one, a lot of what we expected, I think, wound up transpiring. I mean, when we were talking about everybody eats, 9 different pass catchers, and when you have the guy leading the way in Keon Coleman with only 4 receptions, the fact that all of this transpired the way it did and they got 34 points, I feel like if you're going to be able to continue to evolve off of this, it's going to be interesting because it did not feel a lot of the time like the stats resulted in the way that they did, but sure enough, it did, and it wound up resulting in a very successful offensive outing.
Absolutely, and it starts with having your leader, number 17, captain 1 of 2, number 17, and he noticed, he saw the landscape, he saw what was going on, he heard the crowd have a hush over them. And when you're looking at the score at 17-3 on a home opener, what is going on?
The boos were raining, man. I mean, that's where we were in this game. The boos were pouring in. I'm sure you could hear it, right? I mean,
the boos were coming in, and you're like, this isn't good. We can't go into week 1 to the Arizona Cardinals that don't have a chance on making playoffs in the NFC, and we're going to lose to this team. And the Bills are trying to make the playoffs and make a Super Bowl run, and you're losing to this team in week 1. Not happening on Josh Allen's watch, and exactly what he did with his performance. We're going for 18 for 23. 232 yards, 10 yards a pop with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. You called it today. No interceptions by Josh Allen. The only thing is that the blemish is that unfortunate turnover that he, in my opinion, was caused on him. Holding onto the ball way too long. He had an open man, and he was trying to do too much. You ain't got to do too much anymore. You're not looking for 14. You got 0. You got 1. You got 4. You got 86. You got 88. You ain't gotta hone in number 14 now. You just go for where the open man is, and he took a little too much time there.
Which caused that. By the way, Rico, he held the ball for nearly 8 seconds on that play. So I'm glad you saw the same thing I did. That was 100% on Josh Allen, that fumble. He held the ball way too long. But you want to know what? Didn't do it the rest of the game. He really didn't do it once the rest of the game. It felt like when things were collapsing in on him, he either got rid of it. And in my opinion today, a masterclass in navigating the pocket from Josh Allen. He seemed to get out of there right when he needed to. The amount of plays that I think that people will take for granted in that game that would have resulted in sacks on any other quarterback, for the most part today, at times, like Josh Allen missing MVS on that deep ball, Rico, that was rough. You have got to have that. He was wide open, missed him on that. There were a couple moments, right? But for the most part, man, for the first game in 2024, on both spectrums, of course, which Josh Allen dominates through the air and on the ground. I don't know if you're asking for much more than what JA-17 put on display today.
You made it. I'm so glad you brought this up because this was one of my biggest frustrations with Josh Allen last year. And I know that some folks want to really get on Stephon Diggs for, well, you dropped that ball that Josh Allen put on you right on the money, and you did this and you did that. And Gabe Davis, remember when you dropped that ball? There were I don't want to say countless. There were multiple times last year where there was a wide open Stephon Diggs beats his man and Josh Allen overthrows. And then it's an underthrow. You're like, what in the heck is going on? Why can't these two get on the same page? And it turns out it's the same thing. Josh Allen overthrows an open MV. Listen, you got to nail that. In this game, it's game of inches. If you want to go back to game of inches, go back to the Ravens game. An inch. It's a game of inches, man. If that boy is open and he was open, you got to hit him, Josh Allen. You got to do it, man. And if we do those, that game is blown open, and we're not even talking about the Cardinals putting up 28 points. It becomes a blowout. Not happening. So that being said, Josh Allen doing 18 for 23, 232, 10, 2 touchdowns. I will take that. What an amazing I don't want to say amazing. What a solid first outing for our guy, Josh Allen. So,
and let's say something real quick, by the way. I just want to say, and it didn't even it's so weird. The numbers, I mean, he could be maybe off AFC Offensive Player of the Week with the numbers that he put up. It didn't even did it even feel that great? That's the weird thing. Like that game today, it didn't even feel great. And I'm looking back on it. I was telling my dad, I'm like, man, I don't even know how to frame this because the numbers, it's weird. What my point is that the beauty of that guy, man, is it's at the caliber now, and even when it doesn't feel amazing, that just goes to show you where the bar is at, because today, really, for any other quarterback, Rico, that is a career outing, what Josh Allen put together today.
It's only going to get better. He's only going to get more comfortable with the guys. He's only going to get immersed more into this offense and know when he can go to who. And like you said earlier, Dalton Kincaid, only had one reception today?
And I think one target. Like, it wasn't even like they didn't. I mean,
two targets.
Yeah. And the one target that he
reception.
did have was batted down at the line. So in reality, he had one ball go his way.
It's only going to go up from here. And I'm looking forward to it. So, like, you know what? I got to move on to this one here. The rushing game today.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear that this was the plan all along. I got to give big time flowers to my guy, Mr. Keith. Listen, James Cook. Let James cook. I was getting a couple messages in my Twitter, like, "Oh, give that man his credit. He was running like he was a true RB1 today. 19 carries. I didn't anticipate that. I thought there would be more of a split between himself and Ray Davis. 19 carries for 71 yards. He was running inside. He was running outside. It was just a matter of time until he broke one. He didn't break one today, but boy, was he ever solid. The only thing that stands out in my way is it's always, if you're a fantasy player, James Cook is not going to be your red zone guy. I can't see him being your red zone guy. It's going to be Josh. It's probably going to be Ray Davis. It's going to be probably Ty Johnson, or it's a jump ball for Keon or whatnot. But for the most part, James Cook was absolutely solid today. You can count on him. He didn't drop the football. He didn't fumble it. He caught he bailed out the offense on a great scramble by Josh Allen. And here comes James Cook flashing the pan. Man, I was a big fan of James Cook. What were your thoughts on James Cook in this whole run game this year?
Once again, a microcosm of last year. The guy has over 100 all-purpose yards, and it's just quiet, right? It doesn't feel like you just said, fantasy-wise, you're not looking at that game and you're like, oh, James Cook's running my stat sheet up. You're taking 100 all-purpose yards from James Cook any day of the week. I mean, there were times where it felt like, there were times where it felt like it wasn't clicking perfectly in terms of running the ball up the middle. But there were other times where it felt like they could do no wrong handing him the ball off. But what I loved, third leading receiver, where I stand on getting him involved in that pass game, and that play you brought up is a perfect example because that's exactly what they need from him. That safety valve on a moment where Josh Allen gets out, there he is, perfectly executed. But I love the emphasis, once again, on sticking with it because it was working early, and they didn't go away. They didn't panic, especially when they got down early. I loved it. I think James Cook, the way the style of play, it's perfectly aligned with what you had just said, where it's like, you're not going to look at him the way like you looked at Joe Mixon today, or you maybe look at Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots, which by the mother effing way. I mean, you want to talk about, once again, the Bills.
Well, I don't even know what's happening. I didn't watch any game. I didn't get any highlights.
Dude, the Patriots beat the Bengals today. You didn't know that?
I mean, did Jamar Chase play?
Yes.
No T. Higgins. I sat T. Higgins.
Dude, they scored 10 points. They lost 16-10.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised?
Yes, of course I'm surprised. It was the biggest spread of the week. The Patriots are projected to win like 4 games. I mean, Rico, this is the point being is, like, the Bills, the Dolphins should have lost today. Easily could have lost today. My point is, the Bills today, at times, they played a half of pretty mediocre football and they get out of there with a W. Right. And I think James Cook, a huge part of that. And any game, any given game, if you're going to give me 100 all-purpose from James Cook, and like you said, the touchdowns too, people look for that. Josh Allen's going to eat the touchdown share from any of these running backs. So to me, Danny Mitchell, Danny boy, talk to me. I know Dan's feeling good. I know Dan's got to be feeling good. But I'm feeling good about the majority of what we saw today, including James Cook, which, like I was just about to say, 100 all-purpose from James Cook, Rico. Once again, last year, a quiet 1,100. If he does what he does today, Rico, you're right back to that number. And we know the Bills, it's not like they have a 1,000-yard rusher every year. It was nearly a decade between them. So you're taking that any game, any day of the week.
I'm listening. We talked about it earlier today, and it looks like Joe Brady understands the assignment. And the assignment was to run the rock. And that they did. They ran the rock, and they made it very clear. There is no running back by committee. Not today, there isn't, because James Cook is our guy. And we're going to lean on James Cook even more so this year, and we're going to get it. And not only that, James Cook, I didn't realize he had 100 all-purpose yards. Yeah, excellent for any fantasy owners that have James Cook. And salute to my brother for being a thief and taking. He's a Dallas Cowboys fan, but he has 2 Bills players on his team. That little snake. But anyway, well, let's keep moving here. James Cook with 19 for 71, and then you have Josh Allen with 9 carries, like you said. Remember we were just talking about it just the other day. We're like, man, 16 carries for Lamar Jackson is awfully high. When we were talking, I looked at with the most amount of carries that Josh Allen's ever had in his career, 15. And one of the performances last year, he had 15 carries. And then I think the year before that, he had another 15 carries. He had 9 today. Yep. So, and I think there's a wild stat when Josh Allen has 9 carries or more, or was it 10 carries or more, things are usually really good for the Bills in getting a victory. So this is a good thing. This is what we want from our guys. So 9 for 39 for Josh. And listen, we talked about how many yards is Josh Allen going to rush for this year? And it was around the 500. Bro, he is going over 600 yards.
What did we talk about? The rushing touchdowns, Riga. I mean, once again, dude, he's on. I love it. I love it. He's on pace right now to get the 40 touchdown mark again in 10 games.
Listen,
10 games. Overrated, Rico. Oh,
he's overrated.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
Not over there. So,
and once again, and that was in a game where there was a whole first half where you pretty much wrote the game off. They didn't do much.
Right.
And he still had that.
And that's you can't, if you think you can, and see, an overrated player doesn't will his team back to victory. An overrated player can't take on the pressure, right? The pressure's too much. They buckle. Then you can sit here and say, yo, see, I told y'all he's overrated. His team needed him. And what does he do? He throws 4 picks and they lose. Not today, fam. Not today. And he doesn't have Diggs. He doesn't have Davis. He doesn't have Mitch Morris. There's a lot of guys that he doesn't have that they keep counting out the Bills and Josh Allen. And Josh Allen said, you know what? Sit on this cactus. I'll tell you what's good. And when you look at the ability to run the ball, Joe Brady understood the assignment. Like I said, 33 rushes, 130 yards, and we weren't even in the groove. We didn't even get in the groove yet. But I got to give a big shout out to Ray Davis. Ray Davis only had 3 carries, but those 3 carries he had were explosive as ish. And it gives you an impression that when his number is called, he will be fantastic in this offense. So it's lovely to have a 1-2 punch with James Cook and Ray Davis. You make 1-2-3 punch and Josh Allen. And don't sleep on Taran Johnson either. I love our RB room. It's great. 130 yards. Let's keep it up. And then we got to go and hit the receiver room. What stood out for you in that receiver room? When you look at it, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but and I guess this is my question for you. Do we have a number 1 receiver? And is it Keon Coleman?
So this is interesting, right? I'm scrolling through here because, by the way, I don't know. I know you said you didn't see a whole lot from around the league. I did not. You know what your boy Diggs did today.
I listen. I had to pay attention. He had 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns.
9-yard reception and a 2-yard reception. So it wasn't like he went deep. Yep. I don't know what the yardage was for him, but Nico Collins was the big boy.
He was. Nico Collins had the better day, right? But my point here is, good for him, right? He had 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Was a Buffalo Bill last year, of course. I'm scrolling through. I'm going back here and looking. I'm looking at when Joe Brady took over, and it was the Jets game, Rico. Today, in week 1, without Stephon Diggs, without Gabriel Davis, the Buffalo Bills matched their highest scoring game of the year under Joe Brady, which was in overtime, by the way, where they got a field goal. So if we're talking simply regulation, today was the highest scoring game for the Buffalo Bills since Joe Brady took over last year in the Jets game. They had never scored 34 points in regulation. The Buffalo Bills did that today without Stephon Diggs, without Gabriel Davis. The Buffalo Bills did that today with their leading receiver having 4 catches for 51 yards. The Buffalo Bills did that today with Josh Allen attempting the ball 23 times. So to answer your question, no, they don't have a true bona fide wide receiver 1. And I think we saw today exactly what we were hoping to see, and that's, I don't know if it's going to matter. Khalil Shakir, huge play. Matt Collins, huge play. Keon Coleman, huge play. Not to mention Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, non-existent, 34 points. This is without Diggs on the field taking away any of your defenders, Gabe Davis, whatever. So the more I'm thinking about it, because obviously in the moment in this game, I'm pacing back and forth. I'm thinking the worst is going to happen after that kick return, right?
Of course.
You're trying to sit back and look at this. They just matched the highest scoring game of the year last year, the most they've scored in regulation. And that was without any of those guys and really without any guy going off today except for Josh Allen. So to answer your question, Rico, no. And I think it looked exactly how we were hoping it would look. You had a big play pretty much from everybody outside of the tight ends. And with Josh Allen playing the way he did, running the ball the way that they did, the defense stepping up in the second half, that's a team today that can beat anybody the way that they played in the second half.
I can't agree more. And you know what? Everything that you're hitting on it's bringing you back into this game where although like it just looked effortless that we put 34 points up and we just knew that it could happen. We know it can. And the fact that we were able to put 34 points up in regulation and without the guys having to go off and without Xavier Worthy. You know what I mean? So we were still able to do what we were supposed to do. So shout out to the person that put that. My man Huck Muscle says, without Xavier Worthy, we were able to put points on the board and still look dangerous. And guess what? We're not even warmed up. We haven't even established ourselves yet. There's the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks is really starting to like, okay, who can I count on? How is this going to look? And like my man Cody Ben said, this was really the first half was preseason. This was us getting the jitters out until we started hitting what we needed to hit on. That's what it looked like. So offensive side, we look solid. It looked like we can move the ball. We can move the ball no problem.
That's the key, Rico. Like if you were asked in week 1 with this new cast of characters, if you were told, hey, the Bills will have 34 points, Josh Allen have a passer rating of like 130, and they'll essentially be going up and down the field at will once they got their feet underneath them. You're signing up for that any day of the week. I think for the most part, outside of what we maybe want to rule to a poor first half, just trying to get things going, I don't know if you're signing up for a better day offensively based on what we had going into this, and that's a whole lot of I have no idea.
It could feel that way. It could absolutely feel that way. So like now, one thing I do feel good about is the defensive performance. I know some want to say, we got cooked. I personally don't believe we did. It just took some time for us to kind of get our footing down, and that we did. But golly, Greg Rousseau. We talked about it this offseason. The last several weeks, we've been kind of saying, okay, listen, man, Greg Rousseau's had a great camp. Greg Rousseau's had a great offseason. Greg Rousseau had a great preseason. Bro, and they picked up his 5th-year option. If there's any indication, bro, he's going to get his long-term contract. Yeah. And if he's playing the way he's playing, and this is only game 1 with 3 sacks, the man ended with 8 sacks last year, I believe, or was it 5? I can't recall. Dude, he's on pace to have a monster year. And he is, and so I think one of the commentators said he's treating this game, and I know this is cliche, but he's treating this game as if every game is the first game of the season. Let's go, let's fire off. And obviously he's in a contract year, so he's gonna go up. But these plays he made today were impactful. Not only did he have 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, he forced a fumble that turned this game around. And that's what kind of gave us that edge. Big shout out to Greg Rousseau. To me, he was our player of the game today.
I couldn't agree more.
I want to give it to Josh and say Josh was the guy with 4 touchdowns. I get that, but Josh, that's what he's supposed to do, right? Greg Rousseau is what gave us the opportunity for Josh to get his. What were your thoughts on Greg Rousseau's performance today?
Totally agree. I think Greg Rousseau won him that football game in the second half. I can't go as far as to say on the equal playing field of Josh Allen, just because if Josh Allen's not in that game, then I don't know. But that you can say that for any game, really. I mean, that's just where you're at with Josh Allen. Absolutely. So you can't rule it on a similar playing field. But let's talk about the fact that defensively, going into today, you really you did not know what you were going to get. By the way, Taran Johnson goes down early too, and you're thinking, man, we're already banged up in the backfield as it is. And we had thought that in order for this Bills team to overcome some inexperience in the back end, that this front 4 was going to have to lead the way and make it difficult for the quarterback to even get to that level of the field. In the second half, the Buffalo Bills up until that point defensively were not able to stop anything. I don't know if you heard on the broadcast, but they had said that the Cardinals scoring on 3 consecutive drives to open the game was the first time that they had done that since 2006.
Yikes.
So how the way the Cardinals started, more or less, Rico, was an historic start for them by their standards. They were pretty much doing what they wanted to do offensively. Everything seemed easy for them. Everything seemed wide open. And Kyler Murray looked like he was about to have a phenomenal day. It did not flip the page until Greg Rousseau forced that 3-and-out with that sack that did not lead to much offensively the next drive. I think the Bills also went 3-and-out, but that's what flipped the momentum. And then the following drive, he winds up forcing that sack, that strip fumble, which felt like really flipped the game in the Bills' favor, really turned the tide. So to me, obviously Josh Allen, 99.9% of the time, unless you get a rare outing that's completely different than the others, is going to be the most impactful player on the on the field. To me, Greg Rousseau easily second in line today in terms of the guys that I think were the most impactful towards getting this victory for the Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to agree with you 100% and raise you another player that played extremely well, and that was Cam Lewis.
Yep.
Listen to me. Cam Lewis was my unsung hero. We're not talking about a guy that was supposed to do this. This is a guy that we don't expect a whole lot from Cam Lewis. I mean, anytime that you bring up Cam Lewis's name, a couple things show up, right? He was a standout at UB, right? Played with the club on his hand, and he was just known to be a playmaker around the ball at always, right? Then you go back to the Vikings game against Justin Jefferson when Cam Lewis was right there ready to just bat that ball down. The Bills win that game against the Vikings. That's it. Nope. He gets absolutely mossed and grabbed it, and he could have batted it down. Today, though, Cam Lewis was an absolute dog in replacing Taran Johnson today. Cam Lewis today was our second leading tackler. 10 total tackles, 7 solo. And the announcer gave him props for 3 plays that he made where he dipped underneath the 2 pulling guards to make a tackle in the backfield. Fam, Cam Lewis showed up today. And a lot of times people want to boo-hoo on him and kind of pile it on. But unsung hero for me in this game, Cam Lewis. He came out to play. Got to give a big shout out to Cam Lewis. You got to give them their flowers, man. And when their flowers are due, hand it to them, because we don't know what it's going to be next week. But this week he showed up. We got the win. Big salute to Cam Lewis. Was there anybody else that stood out to you in this game that wasn't a big name but made a couple plays that they should be praised for? Anybody that stand out to you? May not, maybe so. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a great choice, especially coming off the bench in a situation where you're going to be needed to step up big time. I mean, you can't tell me that he wasn't a factor in not only the tackling department, but of course factoring into pretty much removing Marvin Harrison Jr. from the game. I mean that was how sick are you today as a Cardinals fan knowing that's supposed to be the future of your offense there, and the guy had 1 catch for 4 yards? I mean, that's embarrassing. I would be sick to my stomach if I was a Cardinals fan after that game for that reason alone, not to mention the fact that you lose in a really tight game. So I think that's a great choice. One guy that I thought made a massive play, though, coming in, Jamarcus Ingram. Right at the end there, they throw the ball down towards the front pylon. I mean, I know Tucker or Ross Tucker thought there might have been some contact there. To hell with that. They were calling bullshit all day long. I was glad to see no flag on that play before where I forget who the receiver was for the Cardinals, but he fell over his own 2 feet. Usually you see a flag go there and you're like, yep, of course, didn't throw one there. And then Jamarcus Ingram, him and Demar Hamlin and on the coverage there, we saw that exact same play for the most part win the game for the Arizona Cardinals against these Buffalo Bills. Ingram had a huge play there to break that one up, and ball game's over. So I think that once again, you have guys under this Sean McDermott defense that just come out of nowhere and they make a play for you here and a play there. But the one other one I'll go to, as I'm seeing a super chat pop up from our man, William Oliver. Let's be honest. Mac Hollins, a journeyman, he comes into this team and he's more known as the guy who's the barefoot guy on the team than he is the guy you're going to be expecting to do anything crazy for these Buffalo Bills. And he had a huge catch early on in the game for a first down. I mean, you want to talk about what I love the most, I think, about this game, Rico, offensively for the most part.
Yep.
When guys got their name called, they were impactful moments. It wasn't like one guy really ran away with it other than Josh Allen, but when the name was called, massive moment. Obviously, yes, exactly. Khalil Shakir, 3 catches for 42, including that acrobatic touchdown. But let's talk about Mac Hollins, a guy that's just, I mean, he bounced around the league, and I don't think anybody's thinking you're going to come in and be a world beater, but I don't think anybody is for this Bills offense in terms of catching the ball. And today he gets 2 targets. He cashes in on both, and one of them is a massive touchdown. So that's just another example, Rico. I feel like each and every week you and I are probably going to be able to sit here and say, man, this guy's the unsung hero. This guy's the unsung hero. Because I think it's going to be a collection of unsung heroes all year,
Yes.
Rico. And that's what it was today.
I agree. And you know what? I'm gonna keep it real with you. Matt Collins' first reception. I'm so used to 13 being Gabe Davis.
My dad said the same thing.
For the first second, I was like, yo, Gabe Davis, because the way he caught the ball, the way he went down, it was reminiscent of Gabe Davis. I was like, oh snap, I forgot. Yo, that's Mac Hollins. Oh, you almost go back because you're so used to seeing 13. You're so used to seeing 14, right? 17 throwing the 14. Dude, this is a whole new crew that we still gotta have to adjust to. I don't know about you guys in the chat. Wasn't it kind of reminiscent a little bit when you saw number 13 catch that football? They're like, oh snap, there goes Gabe Davis. I was like, oh, okay. I gotta start getting used to this. But I'm loving everything that we saw today. Those that needed to step up in the moment that they were called to step up, like you said, stepped up today. And it wasn't like they had major targets. 2 targets for Mac Hollins, 3 targets for James Cook, 3 targets for Khalil Shakir, but they all made them count. 3 receptions, 42 yards. What a reception. What a reception from Khalil Shakir. You have to wrap that brother up, because if you don't wrap him up, you're in trouble. Ask the Pittsburgh Steelers how they feel about that, right? And go now and ask the Arizona Cardinals. You got to wrap this brother up, because if you don't, he will make you pay. And that is one of the things that I love most about Khalil Shakir. He's not a Sammy Watkins where he'll cash it and go down and live to play another game, right? He's not a Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs will try to get you as much as he can, but he ain't going to bang for contact and go, right? And Khalil Shakir absolutely got his bell rung. Spun off of that. There was a few times where he got his bell rung. And big kudos to my man fighting. There was a lot of fighting today. Fighting to get the dub, fighting to win your battles, fighting to do everything, and fighting to get this win, because we had to come back down 17-3 to take the dub 36-24. Yo, big shout out to the Bills. Big shout out to the unsung heroes of this game. One of them obviously being Mac Hollins. But give huge credit to Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau was an absolute dog. 6 tackles, 6 solo, 3 sacks, 1 strip. And then on top of that, I'm trying to see what my man was doing here. Greg Rousseau, he had 2 QB hits. Bro, what a play. Now, can we bring up Von Miller for a quick second here?
Sure.
Although Von Miller, and I got to see the snap count, because I have not seen snap counts. If anybody's seen snap counts, let me know.
He was in a lot. I don't know how many, but he was in a lot.
He was in quite a few times, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Von Miller had, I think, one of the plays of the game where he went out, he faked outside, cut back inside, and absolutely stabbed Paris Johnson and just drove him back into Kyler Murray, which completely nullified the play. Him getting in the backfield and jacking up that lineman. And if you guys know what play I'm talking about, that was all Von Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, Von Miller might be back. Von Miller might be back. He might be a slight step slower than he was 2 years ago, but we got a healthy Von Miller and a smart Von Miller and a hungry Von Miller. Bro, this is game 1, and he was getting the playing time he was getting today. I can't be prouder than this group. What a win. Are there things to clean up? Absolutely. There are things to clean up. A big shout out to Von Miller and this defense, man. They really came in. Now, I gotta bring something up that I think you'll sit here with. I'm watching the Bills go up 10 points. I believe it was 10 points at the time.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, we got this. Josh Allen just scored. The offense just scored. We're gonna put this team away. We're gonna get a defensive stop. Let's go. I must have turned my head to take a sip. All right, I don't know what I did. I just turned my head for some reason. And I hear my wife yell at me from upstairs. I guess the TV was a little ahead upstairs. She goes, "What the hell?" I turned back. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm thinking to myself, we got this. And then JD Dallas, or whatever that meant.
Dude looks like a fullback. I don't even know, dude.
DJ Dallas takes it back. How many yards? 96 yards. unacceptable. Unacceptable. The angles that we were taking, the missed tackles, just absolutely atrocious. Bro, that part we need to clean up. Special teams, to me, if we're going to talk about a blunder and what didn't really stand out to me, what stood out to me as like, we got to clean that up is special teams. And that's not even taking the field goals. That's the kickoffs. That's covering the kick. Bro, we got to clean that up. That's one aspect. I mean, there's three phases to this game.
Dude,
please do not let special teams be the phase that loses you a game.
I totally
last year, special teams lost us the game. Obviously, those 4 turnovers didn't help by Josh Allen, but we lost the game off of a punt return. Listen, they got right back in the mix, down 3 with a kick return touchdown. Like, this game should have been over by that point. That should have been. But here comes this kick return. When you saw that kick return happen, what was going on in your mind? We're like, are you kidding me? What was in the Bot household, the Bell household? You talk to me. What was going on?
Well, naturally, my dad's just having an absolute episode. The game they might as well have won it right there the way the Jets won it last year on the kick return to actually win the game. But of course, 30 seconds prior, I tweeted, put it on ice, right? Because like you said, it was over. The Cardinals couldn't do anything offensively. Josh Allen just got in the end zone. They were on a 21-0 run at that point. It was just over. And what was there, 8 minutes left? Mind you, one of the kick returns prior for that same dude for the Cardinals, what was his name again? I don't even know. But regardless, he fumbled it. Dude, it looked like me out there returning it. And you blink, and this guy's racking one of the house. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. And then, of course, once they got the 2-point conversion, this is what happens with the Bills. Everything always seems to domino into another thing to make you have a heart attack, right? They're down all first half, look like ass. All of a sudden, second half, they look like they did, 3 years ago or whatever. They look like the 13-3 team. Then all of a sudden, in your mind, it's over. Then all of a sudden, they run it all the way back for a touchdown immediately after. Yeah. Then they just waltz in for the 2-point conversion. So now it's 31-28.
Yep.
And then the Bills go all the way down the field beautifully. And what happens? They get 8 yards, I think, on a first down carry, just like that. You're thinking another first down, they're going to be able to take this one down. They don't gain another yard. It's 4th down.
Yep.
That sets up Tyler Bass. And then, of course, what does that result in, Rico? 34-28, meaning a touchdown and an extra point wins it. The Cardinals have 3 timeouts and 2 full minutes to go down and do it. And then Tyler Bass kicks it out of bounds. So they get it at the 40. So, yeah, I'm losing my shit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, give me a break. Everything was setting up for that game to go exactly the. And you want to know what I was thinking the whole time? Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't done dick this entire game. What's going to happen? All they're going to talk about all week, Hail Murray or whatever the hell, 2.0. There's Marvin Harrison Jr. with the play of the week. And you want to know what? They shut it down. They shut it the hell down. But of course, well, like I just played it out for you, fairy tale-esque. It was lining up to be exactly what a Bills loss would look like in that type of fashion. So credit to them. Once again, the Bills defense did not waver once that entire second half. But Rico, yeah, I was pissing myself a little bit. It would have just been so classic.
I'm telling you right now, the way you made me sick with the way you just described what was about to take place. Because I'm here, I'm watching with one of my friends, my man, and Andrew was over here, and I'm sitting here going, Are you feeling good right now? He goes, no, not one bit. I was like, because right now we're up 6 with 2 minutes left to go. Tell me you've heard this before. Well, we're only up by a little margin. It seems like it's a lot, but really it's not. And you have Kyler Murray that's got a lot to prove. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's so funny you said that. I'm like, what is Marvin Harrison hasn't done anything. He's been quiet all game.
It was just setting up for him to go nuts.
Oh my gosh, just absolutely setting up for a disaster on week 1 home opener in Buffalo. We cannot allow this to happen. And I understand that McDermott's probably sitting here, not today, not on my watch. Do what you got to do. This is why I was so stunned when Babbage goes and sends an all-out blitz on second down. I was like, oh, listen, you got my hands. I'm on the edge of my couch thinning. I'm like, nah, I can't do this. I got to stand up. I got to stand up and watch this game.
Oh, I was
And then he
pacing. I
does
was pacing like I had to piss. You know what I mean?
And then he does it again. He sends another blitz on third down. I was like, and this is when Ingram got the hand in there. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness. But this is what Bills football is about sometimes. Sometimes we win handedly, and sometimes they got us on the edge of our seats, biting every freaking nail off our fingertips just until we see the 000 on the clock. And this is exactly what happened today. And we got out there with a win. Kudos to the Bills. Kudos to the atmosphere. And listen, it felt like a fall day today, apparently. I thought it was supposed to be a hot day. Not today. No. It was not, but we got the win. That's what matters at the end of the day. But man, kudos to everybody that came in and did what they were supposed to do. But the one thing I'm going to say, though, Tyler Bass, we got to nail something, man. Either kick the freaking thing out of the damn end zone and call it a day, or get the job done. But what you can't do is kick that thing out of bounds. Buddy, what a disaster. And I said this earlier this year, and I said we got to pay attention to special teams, because now this whole kickoff situation it's not your normal kickoff anymore. You have to be really precise as a kicker. They're making the job a little tighter for the kicker, so we've got to do better. Tyler Bass, your fragile ass has to be better. I know he just took one back to the house. I get it. You kicked it right to him. All right, we understand that point. But fam, do better this time. You got to do better. What does he do? Kicks that out of bounds. And you get the team to the 40. You're giving them yardage, for crying out loud.
It's a product of being in his head, because the prior kick, they take it back. So he's thinking to himself, oh, I got to do something different here. And he freaking, dude, just boot. This is why I'm falling back. This is how I'm feeling. And by the way, like I said earlier, same thing happened for the Cardinals, because the Bills had like a 53-yard return on one of their kicks. Just boot the thing in the back of the end zone. It's only 5 yards up the field that it was last year.
There you go.
It's not worth it. I mean, those two plays alone, Rico, right there, could have cost the Bills the game. Those two plays, kicking the ball out at the 40, giving them 2 full minutes with 3 timeouts to go and score a touchdown. And then, of course, the only reason they were in that position, taking the ball back to begin with. So I think if it's Smiley, right? The special teams coach. Yep. I think that's my emphasis this weekend or this week. Just boot the damn thing out of bounds.
Well, I mean, listen, you got to, there's accountability that has to be made, right? I mean, I got to make my kicker accountable. Listen, your job is to make sure that you put the ball where we need you to put it. We didn't pay you all that money for you to kick balls out of bounds. But coach, these weren't the rules before when you paid me. I don't give 2 shits. I need you to kick the ball where I need you to kick it, or I'll get somebody else to do it. Tyler Bass, I get it. You were perfect in field goals, and that's exactly what we needed from you. But fam, there's more to your job, right? There's a strategy here, and we need you. That ball going out of bounds is not part of the game plan. Can't have it part of the game plan, especially we're down 6 and you have a team that's got full timeouts ready to roll. Can't have that, won't have that. So that was one thing that did stand up to me on special teams. It's something that we definitely must clean up. But
another thing to me that I thought stood out as far as talking about things they need to clean up, I thought the tackling was pretty poor early on in the game.
Ooh, talk about it.
I thought it was pretty weak. I thought the tackling was rough. And we know that this has been as good as these defenses have been under Sean McDermott. The tackling is always, I feel like, one thing that you can take away from any given game. And you'd be like, man, I thought the tackling was really rough today. It got better down the stretch. Actually, it got significantly better in the second half. John feels me. First half tackling was like, oh my God, they were giving him an additional 4 or 5 yards, what felt like on every play. That's one thing I thought needed to be cleaned up. And then this offensive line, how many times did it feel like they just put themselves in a hole because something stupid the offensive line did on any given play? This offensive line is too good to be getting bullshit holding calls, bullshit offside calls. I know that for some reason this year, it feels like every single game I've watched so far, the offensive line seems to be a point of emphasis as far as throwing flags on the field. I don't know what the hell is going on. But to me, all of those things can be correctable. I didn't look at one big thing today, Rico, where I'm like, man, that's going to be trouble for this team. They can clean the tackling up, I would imagine. This offensive line, we know what they can be. Mental errors week 1 is something I hope we chalk it up to. I thought protecting Josh Allen today at times seemed a bit underwhelming, and I think Allen made us forget about that as well as he was able to navigate the pocket and run the ball. But all in all, I think those would be the 3 things I would say coming away from that game. Offensive line with the mental errors and the overall just way I thought it went for them today, the tackling and the special teams. Those are three things. But, with that said, if your tackling's poor and you allow 20 points defensively, if your offensive line isn't looking all that great and you score 34 points offensively, to me, really the one blemish on this whole thing, as far as like if there's a stain on the shirt, I think those two other things are a couple of small blemishes at the bottom of the shirt. The special teams felt like the mustard blotch in the middle of the shirt. That needs to be cleaned up. And I think the best way to clean it up, Rico, like I said, just boot the damn thing out of bounds, and we're not going to talk about it again.
So there's a question that's being asked out there, and whether you have to watch the film again, because I most likely will have to watch the film again, but I did have my eye on Demar Hamlin this game. I wanted to see how he did, how he performed. Based on what you saw, based on the flow of the game, was there anything that caught your eye by the performance of Demar Hamlin today? So Demar had 4 tackles today. He had 2 solo tackles, and that was it. There goes my bold prediction of him coming away with 2 interceptions. That was down the window. But what were your thoughts on the performance of Demar Hamlin?
I'll say this. You just asked me, like, if anything stood out. No, and I think that might be a good thing, because there wasn't anything that stood out to the point where you're like, oh, my God, that's quite obvious that he's out there, or somebody else that we would rather have out there is out there. To me, I think the best thing you can take away from that is the fact that you didn't really notice, in my opinion at least, that he was harming the team by any means. Nothing stood out to me where I thought he was overly elevating the team, Rico. But for the most part, I looked at that as probably what you would have expected from him today, and I had no trouble. I had no trouble with it at all. How about yourself?
There was a few moments I was watching him, and he looked kind of soft to me in a way. Now I don't know whether it was because there was hesitancy. Should I go in and just give a smack, or am I fully all the way there? There were some moments that it looked like he was a little hesitant. There was I don't remember what it was. I think it was a decent offensive play by the Cardinals, and everyone's trying to hustle and bustle and trying to get to the ball carrier, and Hamlin just stood there and let a man put his hands on him and just shoved him back a little bit. There was no fight to try to get there. And I saw that a few times from Hamlin. And I can't have that from my guy, my free safety. So this, I don't want to call it an experiment, but this whole, I know I said 2 picks. That's why I said it was a bold prediction. But this, there's only so much heart you could play with, where we need some impact plays. And I know this is week 1, but you made a good point. We didn't hear his name in a negative part. So it wasn't like he was in the way, but I still need some kind of impact play from Hamlin. And I didn't really get any impact plays from him. I got some from Taylor Rapp.
Yep.
Right. I got some from Cam Lewis. I got some from Jamarcus Ingram. Hamlin was one that I didn't really see anything from. Now, granted, I do have to watch again, but what I did see was him just kind of standing still and wait till somebody put his hands on it and move him out the way. There was no fight. There was no dog, right? Maybe it's the jitters, the first week jitters, who knows? So I'll give him that per se. But this experiment, I'll use the word experiment because that's the only thing my mind is coming up to right now. This experiment is only going to last so long because you've got Lewis Seen on the practice squad. That's a former first rounder that will be itching to find his way onto this field. You also have Cole Bishop that was put on the inactive list that is going to be looking to find his way onto this field. So although this safety room is set for now, I'm sure there's going to be some shuffles along the way. So we'll see. It's very early. But from what I saw with my eyes, nothing stood out to me. Nothing stood out to me to say, that was a big time play. Oh, there goes Demar Hamlin. He made a huge play there. I didn't really see anything. I saw everything from every other player, but Demar Hamlin. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's to be determined. But that's why film studies there. That's why you get to see things, because if you see a shakeup next week where you're like, Demar Hamlin's have been demoted and he's been taken off, there's a reason that did happen, because he didn't impact the game enough, or he wasn't where he was supposed to be. So we'll see. But Kyler Murray only say though.
With that said, though, Rico, I mean, how would you have felt pregame if I told you with what was going to be playing, in the secondary in terms of what we've had in the past. If you were told that Kyler Murray was going to throw the ball 31 times and end up with 162 yards, like once again, similar to the offense in the minimal production, it felt like from one person from the receiving group, the collection was phenomenal. You look at the same with the defense, might not have been like a major play. Obviously, no interceptions. It didn't feel like there was one over the top play from anybody on the back end. 162 yards on 31 attempts. So it was the collection, Rico. And I think that's been the point all offseason. Collectively, can this team be more than just relying on a handful of guys like it's felt like they have in years past here?
So we were just talking about the Demar Hamlin being in the game. Obviously, Cole Bishop was not in the game. He was on the inactive list. But we talked about Cam Lewis stepping up. Why did Cam Lewis have to step up? It's because Taran Johnson was out. How this is going to impact this defense, the way we play defense, tremendously, because we're primarily we play nickel, and this guy is an absolute dog. We hope. I don't know if we've heard anything yet from the Taran Johnson injury report, but we just hope that it's nothing that's going to keep him out for a long period of time. And how worried are you if Taran Johnson is not able to go when we play the very speedy Miami Dolphins and Jalen Waddle, Devin A-Chain, Tyreek Hill? I mean, need I go on? That team is built for speed. Does this impact the way you think these Bills will have to play this team? Like, does it worry you, if you will?
Well, of course it worries me because they were already thin on that end to begin with. And Taran Johnson might not only be one of the most underrated players in the league, but he is one of the best when it comes to the nickel. I don't know if it gets much better than Taran Johnson, and he goes down today. And they don't have him. They really didn't have him, Rico, for 90% of that game. What's funny is not that this is obviously, I would hope no one ever takes it as this way, but this is obviously no knock on Taran Johnson. But the silver lining is when he was out of the game, the Cardinals offense did absolutely nothing. They didn't have him the entire second half. They could not move the ball at all, but it's a whole different animal Thursday night. The one thing that I find odd about that is today, Tyreek Hill had an 80-yard touchdown, well over 100 yards once again. Jalen Waddle had right around 100 yards. Devin A-Chain, I think he had 25 fantasy points. Dude, the Dolphins scored 20 points. They were losing the entire game and barely got out of there alive. So obviously you're more comfortable with him in than without him in. And I'm hoping that Thydock, who said something about this earlier, because you asked if anything is out on it yet. Nothing formal from what I can see is out on this yet. But what Thydock had to say is that it was listed as a forearm, his reason that he was not going to be able to return. Thydock evaluated the way it looked on the broadcast. He thinks it's likely a small fracture to that forearm. And he thinks based on the initial read, it could be 2 weeks with a return in a cast. That's how he thinks. So I would imagine, Thydock's pretty damn good on this. Even if it is just a 1 week injury, Rico, you got to remember, we're on a short week here. So if I were to place my bet, I bet Taran Johnson more than likely will not play just because the Bills are playing on Thursday night. But he could be back for Jacksonville because that's not till the following Monday. So he would have a full 2 weeks, but only have to miss one game. I hope it's nothing more than that. I hope it's honestly less than that. And we are just speculating at this point, obviously. But yeah, Rico, to answer your question, you're going into Miami against, at any given time, the most explosive offense that there is in the league. But the Buffalo Bills, dude, they had, let's face it, week 18, Rico, last year, that defense for the most part was the same defense that went out against Kansas City that I think probably cost us the game based on the lack of talent they had out there. That defense shut down Miami Dolphins in week 18 last year. So I don't think it's any crazy reason for concern, but of course you'd much rather have Taran Johnson out there than not.
Two observations that I made while you were speaking. You mentioned Taran Johnson being out. We didn't really miss a beat. Which is a great thing if you think about it. And a lot of times and this is basically on, social media, where we lament on, well, it doesn't matter who's in there. This team is always well coached. It don't matter who's in there. And I get pushback by saying, go ahead and try to duplicate what Jordan Poirier and Micah Hyde did, and then talk to me about, oh, anybody can just get in there. Those are all pro players, and those are very valid points to make. Taran Johnson going out, did we miss a beat? No. Are we going to miss him if he's out? Absolutely, because he brings a different element to the game. But this is a league about next man up. You got to step up. And Ingram has been wanting this for a long time. Cam Lewis has been wanting to be on this top. I mean, the guy got an extension for crying out loud. So something to absolutely watch. But like someone said earlier, if we play like we played today defensively, because it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't horrible. But if we play the same way we played today against these boys, against the Miami Dolphins, it's a different outcome. It's an absolute different outcome. Now, you're playing two different quarterbacks. Your game plan is absolutely different. Kyler Murray is one that you must contain because he will kill you with his legs. Tua Tagovailoa, I'm not saying that he can't scramble, he can't maneuver, but he's not Kyler Murray. Those are two different backs. So you can play defense a little different, but you want your dog to be there with you. So this whole situation is going to be something to pay attention to and something to watch. So
I also want to point out, just because this is crazy to me, okay? This is nuts.
What you got?
Tua had 338 yards today, right? He had 338 yards. Devon Achane had over 100 all-purpose yards, including 76 yards in the air. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle right around 100. Rico, it wasn't just that they should have lost today. The Jaguars gifted them that game. I know you said you didn't see much, so I wanted to just let you know that near the end of the third quarter, the Jacksonville Jaguars, with all those stats in mind, by the way, were up 17-7. And Rico, Travis Etienne fumbled going into the end zone. It should have been 24-7. The Dolphins would not have been able to overcome it. They would have lost. So my point here is, you had like crazy numbers from the Dolphins today, and they won on a 52-yard field goal as time expired. I will never doubt the Bills. I don't give a shit who's out there, Rico. The way I am with the Dolphins, I won't doubt these guys worth a damn until I'm proven otherwise against that Miami Dolphins team.
I'm going to listen. I know how you feel about the Miami Dolphins. You do not respect anything on that squad until it's 0-0. Then if they win, they win. But until it says 0-0, you're always going to take the Bills. And listen, I'm not far behind you, brother, because I just feel that we just match up extremely well against the Dolphins, which we end up playing next week. But for the purposes of this stream, the fact that the Bills were able to do solid things against this Cardinals team does stand out. So the one thing that I will say, the next segment before we get into our next segment here, we are sponsored, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if you're aware, we are sponsored with our partners Autograph. If I don't know if you guys have downloaded yet, we've been talking about it every stream. Jump in and download the app. This is one of those apps where it's just your one-stop shop for you to jump in and get everything Buffalo Bills. You're not having to go to YouTube and this and that and the third. Everything is here, from your favorite podcasters to your favorite tweeters. All those things are right here and there. And here's the thing: the more you engage with this app, the more fan points you gain. And by the way, with those fan points, you can gain access to merchandise. You can gain access to ticket prices. You can gain access to all these things that allow you to gain and add. And how do you do that? Just use the code Buffalo Fanatics. Buffalo Fanatics code will get you set up. Go ahead and download that app, and it's free. It don't cost you a thing. Go ahead and download that app, and it's an absolute great app. Go ahead and jump in on there. So as we talk about jumping in, how about we jump into what we learned today? And this is nowhere near the end of our stream here, but I'm looking at the team stats today. And when looking at these team stats, we weren't that far apart from what the Cardinals did. Passing first downs, Cardinals 10, Bills 11. Rushing first downs, Bills 8, Cardinals 7. So for the most part, we're near each other. First downs from penalties, the Bills gained 4, right? We'll take that. Here's the biggest thing I want to say, and I'll take this part of the takeaways, right? What do we take away from this game? Here's the thing, folks. We cannot win games when we are making errors and we're not on the same page. The Bills today were 3 for 9 on third down conversions. We can't hit 33% of our conversions. We were one of the best in the game in going on third downs, right? Especially third and short. We'll take that. But too many penalties put us in position to be at 1st and 20. And even then, this offense is so good that we were able to even get out of this 1st and 20. And even the announcers were saying, not many teams usually get out of 1st and 20. It's usually one of those things where you're going to end up punting the ball back to them anyway. What does Josh Allen do? Gets the chunk yards back on 1st down. And then all of a sudden, we're back in business 1st down and down the field. But 3 for 9 on third down efficiency is not going to cut it. However, once you look at the 4th down efficiency, we were 2 for 2. So Josh Allen and McDermott obviously see something in one another where they say, I trust you, I trust this offense. And we know that when push comes to shove, and when I'm talking about push, I'm talking about tush push, we're about to get that. And that's exactly what happened with Josh Allen on 2 occasions today. So I'll take that. But those 3 for 9 on third down efficiency, I'm not really a big fan of that. But the one thing I will say that I did love is the red zone. We were 4 for 6 in the red zone, but we took 9 penalties for 65 yards. So the things that we must clean up on, obviously, is this third down efficiency. We've got to be better, because if we're converting on those third down efficiencies, our time of possession goes up. We keep these guys off the sideline, and we continue to dominate and hold on to the ball and put points on the board. But you can't do that when you're stalling your offense, you're stalling on your defense, giving the team more plays. You just can't do it. 9 for 65 is not going to cut it. We've got to be fundamentally better. And that's the thing. Fundamentals are, and we win most games, but sometimes we fail at that part. And we forget about these fundamentals. So we got to be better. I mean, like you said earlier, Deion Dawkins penalized 6 times last year. And this game, he was penalized 3 times. That's half of those penalties. Come on, man. We got to be better. We absolutely got to be better. But for the most part, 30 minutes of time of possession, which it seemed like the Cardinals were just holding onto the ball and we just couldn't get on there. Josh, at one point he had 15 attempts because he was not on the field because we were giving the ball away and getting these guys.
He had 2 at the 2-minute warning of the first half. 2.
Insane.
2.
Crazy. That's incredible, man. So those things do stand out. But for the most part, we came in and did what we'd have to do. So the 4 for 6 stands out in our red zone. Red zone is important because a lot of teams lose games by not converting in the red zone. Red zone is absolutely important. And I'll say this, man. Keon Coleman, 4 receptions, 51 yards. He's only getting warmed up. And I feel it. He's only getting warmed up, and it's just a matter of time before he has that breakout game. Shoot, maybe it's next week. Maybe it's this upcoming game. We'll see. But it's gonna be our matchups are gonna get tougher. Miami's no joke. You got Jalen Ramsey on one side that's gonna be trying to be the highest paid cornerback in the game. So it is going to be fun. But we got some dogs on our side too. So takeaways from me, obviously, is the 3 for 9 efficiency. We've got to be much better on that. We got to convert. And I think it's just a matter of getting on the same page and we'll be all right. And these penalties, we got to cut down those penalties. We've got to cut down those penalties. I mean, we've talked about it at length. Was there anything else that stood out to you in terms of takeaways from team statistics to individual statistics or performances? What stands out to you?
Well, what stands out to me is a variety of things, but I think there are a lot of things that we have also known forever that we were kind of reaffirmed today with that I think are good things because we really didn't know exactly what to expect going into today, but I think we had a good idea of what it could look like. We were just hoping that it would look like that. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind me. This is insane. I'm
Go Bills. Go Bills.
Actually, before I even dive into it, Caroline, what was your biggest takeaway today? I'd actually love to know that.
I actually left when things were getting a little rough, and I got an acai bowl that cost $17.89.
$17 for a smoothie bowl in honor of Josh Allen.
And then the score went up, and you guys won after that. So
that's true. As soon as she left the house, the Bills were absolutely cooking. So I think you know exactly what the motto will be moving forward.
Someone super chat $17.89. It'll go towards my debt of this.
Yeah, somebody. Caroline just put us on the street with the smoothie bowl she had to have this afternoon. Now that the Z-Bot sandwich has been devoured right there, very tasty, I'm sure, on both ends. The biggest takeaway for me, or the biggest takeaways for me, the biggest one of all, I would say, Joe Brady, he knows his formula. Joe Brady, everything I wanted to see as far as a continuation from last season, I saw it today, Rico. A 60-40 split running the ball. I love it. There are people, I heard the bitching at an all-time high a season ago after the Chiefs game. Everyone was up in arms. The game plan wasn't executed. Not enough Josh Allen. Timeout. That game plan against the Chiefs last year was executed to perfection. They had a dominant time of possession with the ability to win the game at the end, and they just didn't get the job done. But don't tell me it wasn't executed the way that it was supposed to be executed, and don't tell me that they weren't doing it week in and week out. Once again, they had 2 losses under Joe Brady last year by a combined 6 points. Both games were 3-point losses. Tonight, or this afternoon, rather, they scored 34 points, which is the most that they've scored under Joe Brady without Stephon Diggs, without Gabriel Davis. And they did it in the fashion that they were winning every game that they won last year under him, Rico. Dominant running, right? Wasn't as dominant today as maybe you would like to see, or maybe dominant might not be the greatest word, but the run game nonetheless was the emphasis, and it worked well. The other thing, too, that they went back to that they did a lot of under Joe Brady, and it worked, and it works every time. And you said it earlier, the more that they run Josh Allen, the more that they win football games. 9 carries, nearly 40 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he went back to what works. I don't care how many times you go to the well. If you're getting liquid gold out of that well, keep going back and filling up the bucket. My biggest takeaway, I think, above anything today, Rico, was exactly that. I was so curious to see if all the things we were wondering about going into this game offensively were going to happen. And I think everything did. They ran the ball as much as I was hoping that they were. Josh Allen, an integral part of that running game. And the other thing, too, that we were on this whole offseason, as soon as Diggs and Davis left, we had said, not that it was some crazy revelation, but you and I were just a firm believer of this. It is going to be committee. Your leading receiver today had 4 catches for 51 yards. You had 9 guys catch a ball, and that resulted in Josh Allen having 130-some passer rating, 232 yards on 23 attempts and 34 points, Rico. My biggest takeaway today is that Joe Brady's probably the best thing to happen to this offense from a coaching perspective since Brian Dable was running the offense.
Oh, so you're a big fan of Joe Brady and what he's brought, and just
I'm a big fan of not throwing shit into the spokes of the tire. It felt like Ken Dorsey was doing that. When Joe Brady took over last year, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They just started running the ball. They had Josh Allen be more prioritized on the open man as opposed to 3rd and 7 run a 50-yard hit, like a 50-yard out route or a 50-yard post route.
Yep.
It just feels like he has a really good semblance, Rico, of what this offense is. I think you saw that on display today. The target share was evenly distributed. The running game, exactly what it was a season ago. And he knows they're not going to win unless Josh Allen goes out there and has a great day. And he puts him in position, I feel like, Rico, for him to have a great day. That's what they've done ever since he's taken over.
I'm a big fan of Joe Brady and what he's done. And I like the confidence. And the confidence started for me when he was like, I know who I have in 14, but if I'm supposed to do my job and I'm supposed to will my team to put them in great position to win, that's what I'm going to do. And if you're not part of the game plan, so be it. And guess what? The Bills ripped off 6 wins straight for them to get into the playoffs. That was Josh Allen and Joe Brady making a conscious decision on, if we want to win this game, this is what we need to do. Here's another thing that stands out to me. Jeff King comes in and says, Coleman reminds me of my early days in the adult film industry. He will eventually learn to staying power and have to be better. And you know what? Staying power is absolutely important, because if you can't compete and stay in the game, what good are you?
Is Jeff implying his early days of observing the adult film industry or being a part of the adult film industry? I'd love to
he's talking about being a part of the film industry, because you got to stay firm in the game if you want to succeed. And that's what he's saying. So right now you have Keon Coleman that's showing that, if you want to be in this thing, you got to stay firm, you got to stay strong and have longevity in the game. Because that's what it's about, longevity. You got to stay in the game. Because if you ain't in the game, what are you doing? you gonna be on the sideline. Ain't nobody trying to watch from the sideline. That's for damn sure. So big shout out to my guy, Jeff King, with his adult industry.
Well, speaking of forearms, since Jeff King's talking about his early days, it sounds like his forearm's probably about as strong as anybody's. Maybe he can donate it to Taran Johnson going into Thursday if need be, based on what the vibe I'm getting from Jeff King there.
Absolutely. Here's nothing that's staying out to me right now. Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, the former offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, is now the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns at halftime are getting shellacked by the Cowboys.
Getting cooked
20-3. But it's not about the score. They're not doing a damn thing. Deshaun Watson, which used to be one of the best in the game, is an absolute shell of himself. 7 for 15, 36 passing yards. He's been sacked once. He's got a rating of 25.7. The run game has 23 yards total. And just this team can't do a damn thing.
Dude, I'm telling you, I am a firm believer of this. I've felt this way for a while, and I'm only continued to be proven right. And I think I will 100% be proven right by the time this is all said and done, because I think this very well could be his last year in Cleveland. Rico, this is going to look like history will look back on this as the worst signing in the history of American professional sports. When you look at the guaranteed money they gave him, the situation surrounding him when they gave him the money, and how bad he's been and how unavailable he's been since doing so, I think it might stand alone when it's all said and done. I mean, because dude, the Cowboys, like a game like this, the Cowboys, they're susceptible to letting you hang around. They're getting waxed at half. Waxed. And the Cowboys on the road are one of those teams against a good team, which Cleveland is. I mean, their roster is real good. Dude, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, man, I don't even know how you begin to process what has happened with them since they went and signed Deshaun Watson. It's insane.
The Cleveland Browns is an absolute show right now. I mean, you're going up against a newly paid Dak Prescott. He's 14 for 21, 156 yards. Zeke Elliott's got a touchdown like the good old days. CeeDee Lamb's the leading receiver out there, 4 for 58. Brandon Cooks got the lone touchdown. Bro, by the time this game is over with, it's going to be like 40 points to nothing. I mean, it's not looking good for the Cleveland Browns, but neither here nor there. But looking at the performance of the Bills and looking at the I guess the injuries, the one thing that stood out to us was Josh Allen landing on his hand. I want to try to find footage of that so I can kind of give you an idea. But that being said, I wanted to show you a clip here from our guy Josh Allen when asked about his hand and how he feels. And let me show you, because this is encouraging news.
You know, you went down with kind of a left hand injury. How are you feeling?
We'll be all right.
You'll be all right. All right, CNC, you know, you went down with kind of a left hand injury. How are you feeling?
I what?
I don't know. I don't think it is fine. Personally, really? I was watching him on the sideline. I mean, granted, he went back in, they won the game, and even if it isn't fine, he will play. I mean, I'd be stunned if he didn't. But I'm really dying to see what comes up on a scan or something. Usually, I feel like he writes it off. Did you notice he was smiling there? Like, we all right. Did you watch him on the sideline when they were taping that thing up? Dude, he was in some pain. He was in some pretty damn pain, and they had to rewrap it again on him just catching balls there. I think it's probably bothering him more than he's going to be admitting. I don't know if it holds him out, but I got to tell you, I'm really, really interested to see the extent of what happened there.
Really? So you feel like this is a bit of a fluff per se? Like, we'll be all right, but there's really something up, because there's ways that you can answer it. If he said, got no idea, we're gonna go and check out X-rays and we'll check it out and see what's going on, then I would have been worried. But the fact that he was like, yeah, we'll be all right, we'll be good, that just tells me, this is just a little bruise, we'll be fine, I'll get over it. But it could have been, if they had to go under the tent to take a look at it, maybe different. They taped that up right in front of everybody. So maybe it's just a bruise, contusion. We hope.
That's all I'm hoping. That's all I care about.
At least we hope. Let's just say worst case scenario, it's a bit of a hand fracture, left hand fracture. It's not his throwing hand. I mean,
if you're asking me if it's going to sideline him, no. I just think I think it's pain. It's hurting him more than no one's going to be talking about it. I would say right after the game, just because of the way he is. I feel like it's hurting him more than than the I'm all right thing, probably.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if you're asking me if it's going to keep him out, I mean, I would be beyond stunned if that was something that sidelined him.
Well, as of right now, he seems as though he'll be all right, and I'll take his word for it. But these days, some players, they stay mum. They don't really want to say too much. So we'll keep it at that. But for now, folks, if you're wondering about Josh Allen, his own words, will be all right. That's what he's letting us know right now. So that is the news that we're getting from our quarterback, Josh Allen. Now, Taran Johnson, that's a whole nother ballgame. He left and never came back with that forearm injury. And there was no taping this thing up. There was no, let's put something here. Can you play with a cast? I'm sure you can. But I guess we'll get more information from our guy, the thigh doc, and he'll kind of give us his assessment on how he wants to play this thing out. But for the most part, here's where we are, man. We got two guys down that were kind of down, but that played and stuck in it with it. And that was our guy, Josh Allen, the leader, and Taran Johnson, which is a big key to this defense. But I think we'll be all right, man. I think if he says he's gonna be all right, I think we'll be all right, and we'll keep it moving. But for the most part, this is where our Bills are at right now. So I want to touch on a couple of super chats that we had going on. GQ Bob comes in. Is Josh still overrated? He won us that game, 4 tutties. That's GQ Bob pretty much telling everybody, shut the hell up. We're going to be just fine. Get off our tail. Stignified Nose says, I told my friends Kincaid would be the Bills' #1 receiver this year. Not looking good right now. Listen, man, one game. Because
I was stunned, though. I mean, just the lack of even trying to get him involved. It was not what I was expecting. That's for sure.
I don't think anybody expected this. Mac Hollins looks like the leader of the receiver room.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, man. Every game is going to be absolutely different because someone's going to step up differently. Like I expected, to be honest with you, you know who I expected a lot more from was Curtis Samuel. I thought Curtis Samuel was going to be someone that we were going to use a lot and kind of get going. But for the most part, I think we did all right. And obviously, Mac Hollins ball. Here's a question for you, Bot. Going into this game, did it make you forget about the Xavier Worthy performance? Were you kind of, did it throw you off? Were you kind of like, you know what? Actually, from what I saw today, I'm not exactly worried about.
Are we allowed to talk about this? Because I don't know the comments. We're an hour and a half in. We're bringing this up, and the first thing I'm going to see when I go back is here they go again. Z-Bot's crying about Xavier Worthy. The Bills win, and all this guy can talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all this guy can talk about.
Well, give us your thoughts. Listen, we're a game in. Keon Coleman had 4 receptions for 50 yards. And he was. I mean, they tried to give him a jump ball in the red zone. I knew that was coming a mile away. I think everybody knew it was coming, but it was. They said, "Man, get over Worthy already." Well, listen, I put him on the spot, folks. I'm the one who put him on the spot. So, does it make you get over this whole Xavier Worthy situation? I gotta know.
No, I told you it won't. It's funny. No matter what I say, like I said the last time. This is what I said. I swear to God. And whoever commented this, I hope you're watching again because it's just I gotta laugh at it.
Maybe I shouldn't ask you that.
I'm telling you, bro. I knew this was gonna happen. I mean, I'm shocked. We should have started with this, but we should have started. Screw the Bills win. We should have just started this exactly. But I said last week, I said Friday when we here we go. Yeah, strap in. We got what do we got? 6:14, 10 p.m. I should finish up with what I got to say about this. No, what I said on Friday was that it doesn't matter if Keon Coleman is the next Randy Moss. Whatever Xavier Worthy does is going to be linked back to the Bills. And I did see a comment where it was like someone said, the analogy of Keon Coleman to Randy Moss is terrible. As if I was trying to say that they are comparable. I said he could just be the next guy and it won't matter. What I will say is this. What I saw from Coleman today is exactly what Brandon Beane drafted him to do. I can't remember a pass that was caught last year the way that Keon Coleman caught that sideline ball today. That is exactly what he was drafted to do. He was drafted to be a guy, which Stephon Diggs was not. And frankly, nobody was. We've talked about this. The last person that was supposed to be this was a Popeyes biscuit away from being a tight end. according to Booger McFarland. This is a guy that's a go up and get it guy. Josh Allen threw that ball up for grabs in a one-on-one scenario down the sideline, and Keon Coleman came down with it with a beautiful toe tap to keep it in bounds, right? So they did with him today, I think, exactly what they drafted him to do. Is it going to make me forget that in the first game of his career, the Chiefs gave that guy the ball 3 times and he had 2 20-plus yard touchdowns? No, it's not. Nope. But I already said, and I'll say it again, it's not a comparison to Coleman. To me, it's not a comparison to Coleman. And then the argument, and which I feel like how many times do I have to preface this before people understand that I understand that the Chiefs still could have had Worthy after picking with the Bills? I get it. I know. I'm aware. I watched the draft with you guys. It's all on the internet. I watched the draft. You saw me watching the draft, so you know I wasn't not watching the draft. I know that they could have had him without trading for the Bills. It's the fact that they traded with the Bills that pissed not only me off, but a whole lot of other people. And we talked about it on Friday, Rico. What was Twitter doing? Thanks a lot, Buffalo. Hey, thanks a lot, Buffalo, for giving these guys just another one of these guys, right? So, no, it's not going to make me forget about it. It's always going to be something. But at the end of the day, I had said on Friday, and I'll say it again right now, it's not a comparison thing to Keon Coleman. As far as, production is concerned, outside of the touchdowns, Keon Coleman had more yards, I believe, than Xavier Worthy did. He had more receptions than Xavier Worthy did. I just think that what we saw today, the Bills did not want a Xavier Worthy. And that was never my argument. My argument was never the Bills should have gotten Xavier Worthy. I didn't even want Xavier Worthy. You know that. To be fair,
I set up Bot in this whole scenario.
Yeah,
I wanted to see how Bot felt after this game. And
I feel fine.
He feels good about a performance.
Dude, Rico, if you were going to ask me, I know this is like the third time I've said this tonight, but the reason is I didn't know what to expect tonight. That was my big thing. And
yeah,
if you were going to say to me, Rico, hey, Bills score 34 and Keon Coleman was your leading receiver, give me the pen, put it in ink, right? Yep. So once again, and I'm going to bring this up every week, by the way. I hope you guys, I cannot wait. We're going to talk about this every damn week, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But my overall point was that it was never about not getting Worthy, and it was never about getting Coleman. It was always just about, no matter, I told you, every time that Worthy goes and takes a dump, it's going to be on the Bills' dime, and that's just the way it's always going to be. But as far as what we saw today, dude, he was the leading receiver, and I think he had the best catch of the day for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not going to forget it, but I never said once, and I never will say that I'm not excited about what Keon Coleman's bringing to this team. You saw it today.
You did see it today, and I think that everyone is going to play their role. And I set you up. I wanted you to get roasted a little bit.
Of course,
and that you did, and you're going to continue to get roasted every week because there's going to be some kind of performance until.
I love the way you put this. It makes for good fanatics. People try to get Z-Bot worked up. It makes for good fanatics. It does make for good fanatics. It does make for good fanatics. It's a great point. It's a great point.
I think things will shut down when there will be a week where Keon goes off and Worthy is quiet. And then most folks will say, you know what? We'll leave Z-Bot alone. But until then, we'll be back again. We'll be on his ass again. But there was things we talked about, things that stood out today. And I got to give a big shout out. I mean, as much as we want to talk about this defense getting cooked, if not for the pressure from our defensive front, if not for Greg Rousseau being an absolute menace in the backfield, our corners did an absolute bang-up job, man. Marvin Harrison Jr. was bottled up. He was bottled up. There's no way that Kyler Murray wasn't looking Marvin's way. There was a safety over top all the time. We did not want to let that brother mess this game up for us. If Kyler was going to beat us, he was going to have to beat us with his tiny little legs, running all over the place, or he's going to have to go to Trey McBride, or he's going to have to hit Greg Dortch, or he's going to have to go to Wilson. Or you're going to have to lean heavily on the run game, which they tried to at the beginning of the game, but we shut it down. So this defense, if you really think about how they performed today, this was a solid performance. We took away a big piece of their offense, where they tried to make it a big piece of their offense, and they said, well, we're going to revert you back to the old offense you had last year without Marvin Harrison Jr., and you're going to be the same 4-13. Are they a different team if Marvin Harrison Jr. gets involved? Absolutely, but we did not allow that to happen. Rasul Douglas had a phenomenal, solid game. And listen, we almost had an interception. If you go back to the touchdown to Wilson, Benford was right there.
I know.
He was right there. If he just maybe dove maybe a second or two earlier, that's an interception in the red zone. This game, man, reset. He was there, man.
I know it.
I don't worry so much about this defense so much because they're in the right place at the right time where they're supposed to be. We were just a fraction late. And this team is only going to get better. Ed Oliver, we didn't really hear much from Ed Oliver. They were double teaming that brother. They ain't going to double team him all day because Von Miller's only getting warmed up. Greg Rousseau's only getting warmed up, and we didn't even give you the rest of the guys that we got on the squad.
That's the thing. Epinesa didn't do anything. Ed Oliver was getting doubled. Like, it was still great. Back to that point you were talking about with Kyler Murray there.
Yeah.
Or with that almost pick from Benford. That was just a terrific play by Kyler Murray, too. He extended that play by like 5 seconds.
Facts.
Anybody else is on the ground. So you got to give credit where credit's due. That was a terrific play from Kyler Murray. But you want to know what I was just thinking about while you were talking about that? You were talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. Back to, of course, I want to bring Worthy back into the conversation. How about the fact we're sitting here talking about the 27th overall pick and the first pick of the second round, and we're not talking about the guy that was supposed to be the next Randy Moss? If you want to talk about comparisons, Marvin Harrison Jr. was supposed to be the next Randy Moss. We're not sitting here talking about him because the Bills shut him down.
He did.
Shut him down. We're sitting here talking about Coleman and Worthy. Why aren't we talking about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because what am I going to talk about? The guy didn't do a damn thing. So, like I said at the top of the show, I'm more sick about that, Rico, than I am the loss. If I'm a Cardinals fan today, that's what I take away. This is supposed to be the future. Dude, I mean, come on. Even like 20 yards, Rico, you're like, all right, we'll build on it. A catch for 4 yards, dude. I mean, that's sickening, bro. That is crazy.
Walter disagrees with you. He says you should be worried about this defense. It's why we lose every year. Oh, Walter. Walter always has to be a stick in the mud. Walter. Well, you know what? He's not wrong.
I know Walter keeps us in check. He always makes good points. I mean, yeah, he's not wrong. It's probably not wrong. I mean, if we're being fair, it's probably not wrong.
He absolutely is not. But
you got to check your expectations at the door a bit. I think though here, Rico, that this year it's a different D. It's absolutely a different D. I think today you got to be satisfied. They could have gotten rolled today the way things were going, Rico. The way things were going in the first half, that defense could have allowed the Cardinals to put up 40 points today. They allowed 3 points in the second half for those Cardinals. Yep. You got to take away the positives on a defense that's going to have a lot of growing pains, I think, in certain areas this year.
Absolutely. And this is why halftime adjustments are important. What you did in the first half is great. That's why there's 4 quarters in the game, right? You can win the first half all you want. There's still another half of football, right? What's that meme where that black kid is
They had me in the first half, I ain't gonna lie.
They had me in the first half, I ain't gonna lie. But you know what? There's a full game we gotta play. And listen, you got to give it to the Cardinals. Had us in the first quarter, right? They had us in the first quarter, a little bit of the second half until we got our act together, and now we end up with the dub. But I got to give it to Walter. Walter always keeps the check. You know what you did, Walter, but we like it that way because he's got a great point though, because when it really matters and it really counts is in the playoffs. But Walter, we're only week 1. We know what the defense gives us in the regular season. Let's talk when we're week 17, week 15 to week 17, where we kind of start to see where we're at. Maybe by then we get Matt Milano back. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this defense starts to kind of look. I was just going to say,
we'll talk to Walter when we sign Micah Hyde at the trade deadline and Milano's back in December and this defense is cooking on all cylinders in January, baby.
Then we can talk then. So I don't know how you feeling about it because normally during the season we don't really take on chats if you wanted to, if people want to jump in. I don't know what you're doing for time.
We could do like 20 more minutes if that's cool with you.
Listen, we talked about what we want to talk about. Now it's up to the viewers. If you have points that you would like to come across and you want to jump in here, because I know Bot's he's got family time.
Well, I was going to say, I'll preface it. Throughout the year, I will be in the Z-Bot studios and we can go 7 hours for all I care, but I am home for a very rare period here. So that's the only reason why we might not go.
And you know what? It works for me too, because I'm no longer on night shift. I've taken on a day gig. So at this point, I'd be like, yo, Z-Bot, I got to go to bed because I got work tonight. Not tonight, folks. Not tonight. So, folks, if you want to jump in and get your rocks off and you want to get in on a chat with myself and my man Bot, there is your opportunity right now before we close out the show. If there are points that we missed, if there are points that you'd like to bring up, if you're trying to look into this next game up against that, man, it feels like we got to get, it's this Thursday.
Oh, it's this freaking Thursday. Yeah.
Holy jumpins. Thursday night football, man. We'll see if the numbers will be high. And here's the big thing about this Thursday game coming up. We faced a very mobile quarterback that is dangerous and that we must know where he's at all times. He's 5'11" at most, and I'm being very, very nice when I say 5'11". Maybe he's 5'9", 5'10". I don't know, right? We're facing a Tua Tagovailoa that's about 5'11", 6 feet, but they are two different quarterbacks. So there's not going to be a whole lot of we got to watch this and watch that. No, he's a timing-based quarterback. So this is where a guy like Taran Johnson is super important in this game. This is where the discipline of Demar Hamlin, the discipline of Taylor Rapp in the defensive backfield is going to be absolutely huge. But also the pass rush seems to be getting juiced up right now. Greg Rousseau is going to be on a tear. Von Miller's only getting some heat underneath him. So we're looking forward to this upcoming game, a short week. We're hoping that everybody shows up healthy. Taran Johnson, I'm hoping it was precautionary that he took him out. If he's out, then we're going to have to deal. But this upcoming game is going to be something. Is he 5'9"? Murray is solid 5'9"? I guess he's a solid 5'9". I tried to give him 5'10", but you guys ain't going to let me give him that inch, huh? All right. It is a game of inches, so I understand. You don't want to give him another inch. I get it. But here we are. If there's something that we missed and you guys want to gloss over, you want to chat it up, you have an absolute moment to jump in right now. The link is in the chat as we speak. So if you want to jump in, here's your opportunity. What's Eric saying?
We missed Eric. Sorry, Eric. I noticed that you know how it goes. I mean, we are just the worst. We absolutely suck when it comes to scouring. But you know how it is. You're talking about Xavier Worthy for an hour. It's tough to fan through all the super chats. But Eric is coming in. He's saying messy first game. D adjusted well in second half. The depth showed out. Groot showed out. JA17 more efficient than we've seen him in a long time. Shakir dog. I mean, that's check this box. Eric's hitting on all cylinders there. Everything you said was right. And I think at the end of the day, it was, we're sitting here singing a much different tune than we would have been, of course, if that game went one different play in the other direction. But at the same time, for a first game, I think there was far more positives to take away than there were negatives. Yeah, it was messy. Yeah, it did feel like the Bills kind of survived that game more than they won that game. Not to say that they didn't earn the win, but they survived that game. There were plenty of opportunities for the Bills to lose that game, and they showed you numerous times the ability for the Cardinals to take it, and they just didn't. But for a first game, with as new as this team is in a lot of different areas, I think there was a lot of positives to take away, as you said, Eric.
So we got Namdi that came in with actually a great question here. Were you impressed by the O-line and the safeties? If you want to take one or you want to take both, how'd you feel we'll talk about the O-line first. How'd you feel about the O-line today?
Yeah, I was not impressed by the O-line at all today. I thought it was not nearly as good looking as it was a season ago. I thought the mental errors, it felt like more than half of the mental errors for the Buffalo Bills today came from the offensive line. And I also felt like Allen was under pressure more than I anticipated him to be against the defense in the Cardinals that we know is towards the bottom of the league than it was the top. Did not like really at all what I saw from the offensive line, especially with the standard I think we have for them now after what they put together a season ago. How did you feel about the whole line? I thought if there was an area of weakness today alongside of the special teams, the offensive line was up there.
The O-line was not polished today. That's the best way I can put it. I memean, there's O-line, there's performances where you're like, you know what, that was a good solid O-line performance today. We did this. We kept Josh Allen upright. There was a play where McGovern just absolutely got manhandled, and Josh Allen took the sack. And I'm wondering how did he get in so soon? Did Josh hold on to the ball a little longer than I wanted to? Sure, he did. But McGovern, it was 66. McGovern just didn't I guess play that moment well. However, the O-line did play much better in the second half, but overall they weren't the most polished. And we're going to need a little bit more of them next week because the Miami defense is slightly better, Actually, not slightly, much better than what the Arizona Cardinals are going to put on. And they didn't have a pass rush. Arizona Cardinals did not have a pass rush. That is not a pass rush. That was Josh Allen holding on to the ball a little more and us not being polished. Now that there's going to be a pass rush in Miami, we've got to make sure that we are not sloppy and we're on our P's and Q's. So the O-line could have done much better, but I was not super impressed, but I was not impressed either. It didn't stand out to me for too much. Now, safety room, like we said earlier, the safety room didn't stand out that they were horrible. I mean, we only allowed 162 yards passing. So that tells you that they were where they were supposed to be. Although we did not force any turnovers in the back end, we still kept things in front of us, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., that's a big testament to this defense. Non-existent. Why? Because we played and we rolled the defense towards his side, not allowing Kyler Murray to make his magic happen. He had to rely on the secondary and third options. That's big. If you have to now can't hit your first option, can't hit your second option, now you're going to Greg Dortch or you're going to Wilson. Your two best options should have been Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey. What I'm forgetting his name here. McBride. Trey McBride. So if those two guys were not even a non-existent pair, that means your defense did what they were supposed to do. The safety room did what they were supposed to do. We got a bigger beast this coming Thursday against the Miami Dolphins. So only time will tell. Hopefully we get a little healthier with Taran Johnson, but we don't know what's going to happen. So it's going to be a matter of being where you're supposed to be. Disciplined football. What's Walter saying? The O-line was bad, in my opinion, he says. I'm sure that tape will show some instances of Allen not always navigating the pocket correctly, but it was a lot of bad O-line played from the eye test. Good run blocking, though. And that's what kind of evens the playing field out, right? Not great in some pass instincts, but they really did open the run and allowed us to run the ball and kill clock. So that's why I say we weren't polished, but we're going to be better. But let's get Neil in. Neil, let me know when you're ready, when you give me the thumbs up, brother. All right, my guy Neil. Before we get Neil in here, we got a super chat coming from Eric Peak. Key point 4, Thursday Night Football, Miami O-line got torched today.
Yeah, hey, I'm telling you, as well as they played on the stat sheet, they barely got out of that game. So
here comes the Bill Stampede. I like that, Eric Peak. Hey, Eric Peak, you know what it is, man. Keep hitting them squats. Are you squatting 600 yet? I'm waiting for you to catch up to Saquon Barkley. I need the footage. You know what time it is. All right, my guy Neil. What up, Neil? Talk to us.
Oh, what's going on? All right. I remember I remember talking to you the day before the draft about the whole Worthy. And yeah, I got toothpaste on my face.
We know why.
2 zits, yeah. But other from that, yeah, I was really I was super mad about that Chiefs game. I was on the same page with you, Ziba. I wanted Worthy. Except I know, like, for me personally, I wanted him because I thought we could utilize his speed. And I thought we could have a killer player because I kind of want to replicate the Chiefs' offense of old. So I kind of wanted to be that new Chiefs type of team. But, you know, that wasn't meant to be. But I really loved the Keon Coleman. That pass, that catch from him was unbelievable today. My jaw dropped when I saw that. So, and then I remember, Rico, one of your streams, you commented on my Frank Gore Jr. thing. And now that I've had more time to watch Ray Davis and other running backs, I've had a change of heart. I'm glad he's on the practice squad, but I think that Frank Gore Jr. did not earn a spot on the roster now that I've seen more of the plays. I agree now with that. But today's game, what a game. My heart was jumping up, like, from high to low all game. And I've never been so, like, happy one moment and then just so frustrated the next. I mean, that punt return, that was just unacceptable. Should have never allowed that to happen. We should have put this game away literally in the third quarter. We should have had this game away. And Josh Allen holding on to that ball, that was I was so mad. I called my dad when that happened. I was like, yo, this is going to contribute to the he's overrated conversation because of the turnovers. And seeing him with Curtis Samuel right in the middle, you were thinking, like, why doesn't he throw that? But now that I've had more time to look at it on the replay, because I record the games and watch them, I think he was afraid because there was I forgot what his name was right next to Samuel, and I think he was terrified that if he threw it, he was getting baited to throw and would have been intercepted. That's what I think Josh Allen hesitated to throw the ball, but I could be wrong. we'll have to see on the all 22. But
we'll definitely have to see. It's a game of chess when playing football, man. That's why these quarterbacks are like, should I throw it there? And this is why great players know how to bait. You right? There's guys that are they know where they're supposed to be positionally, but they'll kind of hang around over here. And the quarterback's like, oh, I got one. And then this is where big mistakes happen. So Josh was just trying to get the jitters out. I mean, this is the first week. Once the first week is out of the system, you kind of start going back and looking at film, and then now you polish yourself and you kind of turn things around for yourself. So we got a quick turnaround. We're going against the Dolphins, so we'll see what it comes out to. But Neil, great call.
One quick.
What's that, buddy?
What do you think our team like? How do you feel going into Miami this Thursday? Confident, just like it can just be confident.
You already know how I feel. I'll let Rico take that one.
I hate
man. The Dolphins, we just match up well against the Dolphins because of who's quarterbacking and the style of play that he has. He's a very timing-based type of quarterback, and we know the weapons he's got. So if you get in the lanes, number one, and if you're taking away his first read, having him to now switch over to second read, third read, by that time you're hoping your defensive line gets to him. It's not always going to be that way. But for the most part, I mean, I'm confident. We play the Dolphins tough every time. We have the upper hand. But I mean, this year's a lot different. We're a lot different. We're a different team. We don't have the same guys with the same instincts that know the Miami Dolphins the way that our Poyer and Hyde knew them, right? They knew where to be. Now we have new safeties. Do you know where you're supposed to be when we're playing guys like, you mean Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill? So am I as confident as Bot? No. Do I still feel good? Absolutely. But that's my take.
Appreciate it.
That's my take. Appreciate it, man. Neil, we appreciate you,
Neil.
Love the fact that you call in and give us the goods. We got one more call we'll take, and that's our guy Andy before we shut the show down. Andy, you're up, big fella. What's up, Andy? You there?
Andy
didn't want to show his face.
I think Andy's doing something.
Andy was there. He was prepared.
He was chilling. Andy was chilling.
He was indeed.
I got a feeling
sorry.
Andy. I told you he's coming out of the bathroom. Look at him.
Listen, don't forget to flush, brother.
No, I was getting my food.
There you go.
Even better.
I'm happy as hell we won that game.
Hell yeah.
Ready to kick the shit out of Miami on Thursday. It's going to be a good day.
What was your big takeaway from this game? Because we're limited on time, but what was your big takeaway from this game? And what are you looking forward to next game?
Well, looking forward to see Dalton Kincaid get a little more involved.
Yep.
I liked how we spread the ball around, but I feel like we missed an opportunity to feed him the ball.
It will happen. It will happen. And going into Miami, what stands out for you this Miami game, this upcoming Miami game?
Josh Allen's going to do what he always does: beat the shit out of Miami.
Pretty much how I see it. That's how I pretty much summarize my preview of those games every single time.
And that's the way we end that call with my guy.
Hiding behind the chair, screaming.
Exactly.
Listen,
we're gonna have TV hiding behind the chair, screaming.
He almost had a heart attack today. He has 5 days to recover until we do it to him again.
Oh, buddy, if they missed that field goal, he would have lost it. He would have absolutely lost it.
I would have loved
Andy,
it.
you're the man. Listen, we love that you keep tuning in. You've been tuning in for a minute. We appreciate you, bro. And we'll catch you on the flip, man.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Well, folks, that's it for us. Bot, your final words, man. Bot is glowing.
Listen. 1-0 above anything else. 1-0. You know how I felt about the early start here with this schedule going into roughly early November, right around Halloween. This is about as tough of a stretch as you could possibly write up for a start to the season.
Yep.
Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, I know you said earlier that you didn't feel that it was must win, but you were kind of leaning to the fact that, I mean, it's not that it wasn't. To me, it was. Just because you could afford, I mean, because you know, I don't want to hear that projecting a loss. You're going to bake in some losses here, folks. It's the way it's going to go. The Bills could lose 2 of these tough games coming up throughout the stretch that goes into November, and they could be 4-2, and that's a great spot to be in this league. Ask the Bengals, who lost to the Patriots today. I mean, it's crazy. You know how it goes. Every week, it feels like one of these teams that shouldn't be doing anything wind up doing something. We saw it last year with the Bills a couple of times. The Patriots beat the Bills. Like, what the hell? The Jets week 1. So this was a huge win for me. First half was really rough. the fact that they were able to go into that second half, Rico, and turn it around the way that they did. I know it was sloppy in a lot of areas today. I know there's some stuff that needs to be cleaned up. But from the defensive and offensive side of things in that second half, the ability to switch it on a dime the way that they did was really encouraging. Big win for the Bills today that I think showed a lot of what I wanted to see. Great running the ball. Josh Allen, great in both sectors, which I think is going to be pivotal each and every week, not only through the air, but running the football. And I thought the front four, which we are going to have major weeks out of, I think every week in order for this defense to succeed the way we expect them to. All of that seemed to come clicking today was the result of a W in Buffalo that I think could have went south quick the way things were looking in the first half. So overall, Rico, was it the greatest game? No, but it was a W that I think had a lot of great takeaways, and I'm looking forward to see what they build on from that into Thursday against the Dolphins.
I can't agree more. I think this is a building block. And this is the best way I could put it. We build, we brick by brick is what we want to do, right? We want to build a foundation. So going into the later half of the season, we have a strong enough foundation that we can lean on and now go into the playoffs ready to go. But week one is one of the tougher wins to try to get because nobody knows anything, especially with, what do we know with the Cardinals? We know what they did last year, but so many teams improve and you see what they do. And teams like the Bills have lost so many players. You think you can come in there and do what they do, but I guess they forgot they got number 17 they got to deal with, and they learned the hard way. 4 touchdowns on the night, one of the stars of the night. But that being said, game one in the books, the Bills are 1-0, and I can't be more happier and more thrilled. So the best way to end this night is by having you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. The Bills are 1-0. We get to enjoy the meals of what have they just taste better, don't they? Every drink that goes down is just refreshing. So, folks, have yourself a fantastic evening. Watch the rest of the games. The Dallas Cowboys are absolutely eating up the Browns. And Sunday night game is going to be the Rams and Detroit Lions. It should be a good one. Monday night is going to be the best one. We're looking for the Jets to take
I can't wait.
Time L. We need that. So, folks, until next time, it's your boy Bot. It's your boy Rico. It's the Rico and Bot in the afternoon post-game show. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. And until next time, we are gone. Go Bills.